There we go, green lights, and we're off once again. Hello, good evening or good morning, depending on where you're watching, and welcome to the InGear Motorsport live stream charity race for the Red Cross. I'm joined here with Charlotte Taylor once again.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, really excited. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited for this. This has been months worth of planning and build up and just organising, and there's a lot of guys sort of in the background of all of this tonight. So we've been working towards this for a while. I'm really, really excited. So this is our special 90-minute event race at the Laguna Seca circuit tonight. Before we start chit-chatting too much though, let's take a look at the timetable and what we have coming up for you. So we're going to have one 90-minute race. Normally when you watch these streams, if you have been in the past, we do two 30-minute races, but the drivers have got their work cut out for them tonight. It's one long 90-minute race starting at 10 to 8. So we're starting on time, which is a good effort, Charlotte. We've done well there. It's 7 o'clock.
Frantic at the end there, but we did it.
But
so.
Yeah, we're up and running at 7 o'clock on time, and then qualifying will start at 7:30 because we've got a little bit of a build-up show first for you. So we've got a track guide and stuff. We'll show you that in just a sec. And then after the race is finished, somewhere around sort of 9:20, we'll have a short break, and then we'll be able to pull some of the drivers through for a quick interview. So we'll see who finishes where and have a chat with them afterwards and see who's up for a discussion with us. Lots can happen in 90 minutes.
Yeah, who will actually want to talk and who won't.
So I mentioned the build-up show then. The next 30 minutes you're here with Charlotte and I having a look through some details about the night coming up. Let's take a quick look at what is coming up then for the next 30 minutes. We're going to be starting off with 3 different features, one of which will be qualifying, but the first thing that we'll be looking at is a track guide. So Laguna Seca is a very technical, challenging circuit, lots of opportunities for drivers to get it wrong. So I'm going to be taking you through that shortly as part of our track guide to show you where the track goes and what some of those dangerous areas are that could upset a few people's races. Then at 7:20, we'll be going for a deep dive with Team Sheba Garage. So I caught up with Danny and Neil earlier in the week, and we had a bit of a discussion about what their expectations are and some of the deeper aspects of Assetto Corsa Competizione. And then, as I said, by 7:30 we'll be heading into qualifying. So qualifying will be 15 minutes, which is what we're more used to in terms of time format, but like I say, the race will then be a 90-minute race. That will mean pit stops, that will mean potentially tyre changes, it will mean potentially fading brakes.
Yeah.
So lots of very exciting stuff coming on from there. So Charlotte, how are you looking forward to all of this tonight?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. So I mean, Mackenzie actually drove in the race on Tuesday, so the guys did have a practice at the start of the week, so it was really good to kind of see what kind of setups they were going for, what tactics they were going for, and I think actually the guys learned a lot. A lot of the guys that are in this race today have only ever done the sprint racing type thing, so putting them into this new sort of endurance racing setup is going to be really interesting to see how they handle it. So I think there was a few surprises. There was I don't really want to give too much away because we'll see. I don't want to jinx anyone because we jinxed everyone last time, didn't we? But yeah, no, it's going to be really exciting just to see what happens. And like you say, 90 minutes is a very, very long time. It brings in loads and loads of different elements that drivers haven't had to do before. So yeah, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, lots of challenges. And we ran a practice race earlier in the week for people to have a go, just so we could see how it would work out. And give everyone a bit of an opportunity to actually experience things like pit stops and stuff, because for some people, they've never done that before. We've got a mix of drivers that have actually raced in the real world racing with us now, and then guys that are brand new to racing altogether, and sim racing's their first experience. And then we've got some more seasoned sim racing veterans in there. So we've got a real mix of different abilities. I think it's
a really, really good mix as well. And I think that's one thing that's really developed over the last few months and over this kind of sort of strange time that everyone's been living in. It's actually been a really good way to see some of the drivers really come on a lot. I think there's been a couple of drivers that certainly we've seen a real big improvement for, and the guys are sharing setups. We've been in the Discord chat all day. We can see some people have literally been going round and round and round literally I think all week, because we keep seeing them pop up, don't we? But no, it's a real good mix, and I think as well it's a sensible mix of people. I think you'll agree with that. You know,
they race well together, and where we've been doing our races now since we've been doing this since the beginning of lockdown, really, so a few months. These live streamed races, and of course, sort of leading up to this point, and we're still going to continue after. But yeah, like I say, they've really come on. They've got used to racing with each other. We have our kind of core group of about 12 drivers or so, of which they're all racing. Yeah, which is quite cool.
It's really good. Yeah.
And it leads me to my next point. Then tonight is about raising money for charity. We're all about supporting the Red Cross tonight. And the reason we picked the Red Cross is because it's a global charity that supports a number of global causes. We've got drivers from all around the world. I can just see somebody's donated. I want to catch that before we go. Thank you very much for that. So you'll see these donation links pop up in the feed as we go. So thank you. We've got them coming in already.
Yeah, that's really good.
You'll see that just below Charlotte and I on your screens. There is a link of where to go. That's it.
I'll be doing that the whole time.
Press below. So that will take you through to donate. It goes straight to charity via Tiltify, and as you can see, it pops up on the stream as well. We'll do a better job of in the race making sure we see the names flash up.
Yeah, and, I'll definitely. I'll be keeping an eye through it. And I think, you know, it's just really important to say that we know there's loads of great charities that are based in the UK that have really helped out over the last few months or so, but we felt it was important that there's a lot of charities that have also been forgotten about, and we know that funding's been pulled from a lot of them as well. And you know, coronavirus and this global pandemic has been absolutely horrendous for everyone. I think we all probably know someone somewhere that's been touched by it, but with the British Red Cross and the Red Cross Foundation, they helped so many people around the world, and we just felt it was really important to just kind of show support for another charity as well, because we know that, you know, we want to kind of spread the love a little bit, and we just felt like it was the best one. And we didn't just jump to that. We spent quite a lot of time going through them, we've
had a good look. So yeah, although you'll see British Red Cross at times, they are global, and of course they support these global causes. So that's what tonight's all in aid of. And of course, please give what you can, and even just sharing posts will help so that this gets more exposure and more people can watch. That was John that just donated. So Sheba Garage, he's listed himself as, so
hey, John.
The brother of Neil, who races for Sheba Garage alongside Danny P. So thank you very much. We'll be doing our best, like I say, to keep an eye on those and give everyone a thank you out on stream. You can also chat to us, depending where you're watching. This is out on a couple of different Twitch channels, a couple of different YouTube channels, and a couple of different Facebook channels. So we're spreading ourselves as far and wide across the web as we can to get this message out here tonight. So if you say hi in chat, we will see it, maybe not straight away. Kirk Heath's just messaged, who's one of the drivers tonight, saying thanks in advance for everyone and good luck. So thanks for that, Kirk.
I think everyone's buzzing for this, aren't they? Like, it has been such a big build up to it, and I think it's I feel like this is a real good time to do this, because this is like the end of lockdown as such, isn't it? And it's kind of going into the next phase. And I know you'll speak about this more, maybe some part during the race, but you guys are going to be starting your championship in a couple of weeks. So everyone's having next week off, because I think everyone needs it a little bit. So this is like a real poignant point, isn't it? You know, you've done really well, all the guys to build this sort of community up as such, and
yeah, and we've been really enjoying it. And of course, it's no secret that we're all enjoying what we're doing as part of this tonight. But we thought let's try and make a good cause out of it as well. So
just looking at my phone already, Mother Burridge is all over it. Really good.
Yeah, Mother Burridge has also donated, Charlotte's mum. Thank you very much. So yeah, we'll be keeping those going, and we'll keep coming back to the cause and the Red Cross and a bit more about their work as we go. But for now, I want to keep us nice and on schedule and go and take a look at the track guide of Laguna Seca. So it's a very technical, challenging track, and we've seen it throw up a lot of exciting moments, even just from our practice races that we've had and other races that I've seen. So that'll be getting queued up ready now to play for you, but we'll go through, you'll find out a bit more about the circuit layout, and of course that will then help during the race just understand a bit more of some of the challenges the drivers are facing. So here we are then, let's go take a look at the track guide for Laguna Seca. So we're going to take a look at the Laguna Seca circuit in a bit more detail. It's a very technical, very challenging track, and it will easily catch drivers out if they're not paying attention, something that's particularly hard in a 90-minute race. It's just over 3.5 kilometers long, so it's not a particularly long track, but it does have a lot of steep elevation changes and very little runoff in some places. So like I say, it makes it very, very challenging. So let's start off by jumping in with a flying lap. And it drops downhill into the first very technical, tricky double apex left. So you've got to make sure you hold the car nice and tight, don't brake too late so you can get that second apex to get a clear run out. Now I mentioned there's not a lot of runoff, you're going to see that straight away through turns 1, 2 and 3. Look on the outside, very little space to let the car move, and you can see already it wants to step out and oversteer, but I just don't have room. Again, coming out of turn 3, you've got to use all the track, but you also don't want to go too wide. Then we drop into turn 4 here. You've got an inside sausage curb there, one of those big red block looking things. You don't want to hit those. They send the car catapulting into the air. Then we drop under the bridge through a fast left-hander, a little bit of runoff as we run up Rahal Straight. And then we come to the famous corkscrew corner, which has a massive 18-metre elevation drop, blind entry, as we come down the hill here. And you'll see how steep it is. The car having to work hard to stay on the track because it loses a lot of grip where it goes light. Another driver getting out of the way there while I'm on my qualifying lap. And then we come into a slightly in-camber right-hand corner here, but again, no runoff whatsoever. And then you've got a very tricky braking marker to try and spot because it's very easy to over-brake this, and then you get a very bad run the whole way up to the main straight. So not the longest of laps, but you can see it's very, very busy, lots going on, and you don't get much of a chance to sit back and relax. So let's go and break this down a little bit corner by corner. We'll go all the way down to turn 1. You notice how actually it does drop down quite a bit, so you're braking on a downhill stretch. And it's one of those corners where if you just try and go a little bit too deep, you then find yourself really struggling to turn in. Instead of being over at the curb at the apex where you want to be, you're somewhere more over here trying to get the car back on track. And you notice there's all these little tiny specks of rubber down here which aren't very good to drive on. That's what we call marbles. And if you drive on the marbles, it's like driving on real marbles. The car slides around all over the place. So you've got to really make sure you get the right line here and make the most of that little bit of camber that you see. And then you come in nice and tight here. Use that little bit of space on the way out. And then you run up to turn 2, which is a gear 2 corner. So you need to slow the car down, but you've got to make sure you carry the speed through the bend. And the challenge is always how much speed can you carry without running off onto this gravel here. And this is what I mean when I say there's little runoff. Some tracks have entire tarmac areas where you can run wide with the car. Where you see there's very little runoff space to use. So the problem is if one wheel or one tyre drops onto the gravel as you're coming out of a corner, the car will spin very, very quickly because of course you've got one tyre with zero grip on gravel and the other tyre with loads of grip on the track, and it just spins the car around really, really quickly. So you don't want to do that. And plus, if you do go fully off onto the gravel, the car will ground out very easily. So what I mean by that is it's almost like a sledge skipping across the gravel. The tyres aren't actually on the ground, so you have no control. So it's really, really important, especially over 90 minutes, to keep it on the track. You can see the lovely hospitality space over here. People could be watching the race from. Some great detail in the game. So we come under Cooper Tyres Bridge, then we turn into turn 3, slightly faster gear 3 corner, but you've still got these big, what we call sausage curbs on the inside. You see these, you do not want to hit them. They are like concrete blocks. They are concrete blocks, and they throw the car into the air and send you somewhere off over this direction towards a tyre wall.
So they stop drivers exceeding track limits, but when you do or make a mistake, it's not very good. But the worst one is still yet to come in a couple corners time. We have quite a fast corner here, and it's slightly cambered in again as well. So if I just bring the camera back a little bit, you start to see how the inside of the corner is slightly banked. Now, the reason that's beneficial, if you get it right, is the same reason that NASCAR circuits are banked corners. It holds the car in more, so you have more grip if you're sort of on the inside of that banked part of the curve. So it's really important that you do that, and if I just come a bit lower, it might be even easier to see. You can see some more marbles here on the outside. This is only qualifying, that gets worse, the marbles throughout the race, but as I go backwards, you can see the apex starts to disappear where it's just downhill. So that gives you an idea of the banking of the corner here. And then we run out, and then we have one of the most challenging corners on the track. It's a very fast left-hander, and it runs onto a Rahal straight. So we drop under the bridge here. You're looking for a braking marker, and again, when you're in the car, you can't really see the apex of the corner. If you look, it's very hard to see the inside of that corner. You're coming in at breakneck speed. You've got to sort of dip the brake, down a gear, and then turn it in. This is the worst of those big curves that you could possibly hit. So if somebody hits that, they're pretty much going at least out onto the gravel, and if they're lucky, they'll come back on. Worst case, they're in the wall. But there is a little bit of runoff. It actually got added later on in the circuit's life. There was originally none there, but there was quite a lot of cars running off wide, and to get approval for certain levels of race grade, they had to add more runoff. And then we come to the famous corkscrew corner, or turns 8 and 8A. Now, I mentioned it was a blind entry. Again, we're not really far off this sort of level as we approach with the car. Notice, again, we can't see where we're going. If you're coming along here flat out, just touching into gear 4 or 5, you know, the car's at a pretty substantial speed, and you didn't know what's coming up, you wouldn't know to brake, would you? So you have to know the track, and that's where learning the track comes in very helpful. So it drops down a little bit for the left, but we have an 18-metre drop, as I said, on the flying lap. And you can sort of see that more on here. The game still doesn't do it justice versus what it would be like in real life. But you can see how quickly that drops down, how sharply that drops down, still quite well there. If we look back, you can see that. And the real challenge to that is the car goes very light. So if you imagine as the car drops downhill, the weight of the car kind of lifts up to go the other way, and the tyres are then having less compression, putting them into the ground, and then you have less grip. So you're trying to negotiate a tricky off-camber, on-camber corner, and then all of a sudden the car goes light and you have less grip to do it with. So that's one of the reasons that you can see that corner go wrong for people when they lose control of the car on the way out, maybe have a big slide or a big moment. So we're rounding off then the last few corners of the lap. We drop downhill a little bit further, and again it's another very cambered corner. Normally you would want to come out nice and wide and then tuck in for a corner, sort of wide entry, apex and wide exit. But actually you tend to see, and you can sort of see on the track here, how there's a slightly darker line that runs across the middle. Now that tells you that that's where most of the cars tend to run, and that's exactly how it works in real racing as well. So you actually want to be slightly more mid-track, because then you make the most of that camber again, and you use a bit of this curve and come out nice and wide. And then we come through into the penultimate corner. Again, a bit of camber to use and a sausage curve to avoid. It's another corner where it's very easy to run wide. There's lots of opportunities for drivers to make a mistake and lose positions. And then the final turn I mentioned on the flying lap is quite a tricky one. One of the reasons that can be is quite often early in the race, the braking markers tend to get taken out by somebody having a bit of a moment. So you can see here we've got the 200-metre braking marker. They are just usually either polythene or little bits of paper, so it's weighted. They've even got a little weighted sandbag in there. Look, that's pretty cool. Now if somebody hits that, that's gone, and that's pretty much the braking marker of where you want to hit the brakes to make sure you get yourself stopped for the hairpin. So when that's not there, trying to pick where you're going to hit that brake is quite tricky, because there's not that much else around if you look to try and use as a reference, particularly when you're in the car coming flat out. You know, there's not really a great deal. I try and use this tyre wall where it ends, so the difference between tyre wall and not is roughly the same, but yeah, it's not very easy to spot when you're in the car. And then we come in, and it's all about exit speed. You've got to make sure you get a really good exit, get the car pointing nice and straight, You tend to not want to use too much of this AstroTurf stuff, the green stuff, because it does zap speed out of the car. So even though it's there, you're trying to straighten the car off and get a nice run up to the start-finish line. And there is our flying lap. So as you can see, lots of ingredients for challenges, lots of ingredients for some excitement during the race, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the drivers tackle it.
Not too much.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at chatting with Sheba Garage guys in a few moments' time. But Charlotte, you've also kind of watched a few of our races around this track. What have you thought of watching it from a, I mean, you've obviously raced, but a spectator's point of view in terms of when you've watched our practice races?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that stands out is from a spectator's point of view, the track actually looks really wide and looks like there's a lot of runoff. But from your track guide there that you just kind of shown and sort of said in a bit more detail, that the guys can't be dropping a wheel off. We've actually just seen it in free practice there. Sorry to grass Chrissy up there, but it just caught my eye in free practice that he was just pushing a little bit too hard coming out of the last corner, dropped a wheel and he's off. And it really is that these small gravel traps are literally sucking the cars off at the moment. So I think that's something that really, really needs to kind of stand out. I think as well, and is making sure the guys just get around the first couple of laps and almost turning that sprint kind of racing mentality off. Like I think we saw it on Tuesday, and you can kind of probably talk about this a little bit more, but some drivers were driving really defensively straight away. It's like 90 minutes of driving that defensively is A, very frustrating, and B, it's not the best way to race. You know, you're better off to kind of semi-work together, whether you're in the same team or not, try and build a gap from the sort of the middle of the pack or wherever you are in the grid, and then go from there and then crack on with it, because it's, you know, it's such a long time. The biggest thing as well though, this lap is very, very short, but it's very, very busy. So fatigue with the drivers is something that we're going to really notice as well. A lot of the guys were saying it, and I listened in on the Discord on Tuesday, and I think some of them didn't really actually want to do a practice 90 minutes. And having done endurance racing myself, and I've done like 6-hour long races and done like a couple of hour stints and stuff like that time, you've got to be practicing that, because driving in light, sort of daylight into night as well, that throws a different element into it. And we'll talk about the setup the boys are running, you know, in a few minutes' time. And I know it's something that you discussed with the Sheba Garage guys, but you know, it's so realistic, especially if you've got VR on. It's so realistic. So 90 minutes, going to be tired. It's a busy lap, and we know the server's feeling up really well at the moment. You know, there's a lot for these guys to be thinking about. So fingers crossed they've all had a Red Bull or something.
It's going to be busy for them. It's going to be busy. If you're just joining us, it's our InGear Motorsport charity race for the Red Cross tonight. There's a donation link below us on camera at the moment, but we'll be talking much more about that once we get into the thick of everything. We have got a feature coming up where I sat down and had a chat with the Sheba Garage guys of Danny and Neil. So we'll be watching that in just a moment's time. But this is all for the Red Cross tonight. So all the donations will go straight towards them. And it will come up on our screens, and we'll do our best to give everyone a shout out. And you can even chat to us in the chat boxes around the various channels that you're watching as well. So anyway, let's go and dive into this interview and a bit more of a deep dive with Sheba Garage.
So here I am with Danny and Neil, the Sheba Garage guys. Thanks, boys, for agreeing to have a little chat with me. We've been playing in the game now for about 3 or 4 months properly since we first started this, when lockdown first started. How have you guys been finding it from where we first started to where we are now? Feel free to chip in, whoever first.
Yeah, I think like it's been interesting as a group. We've certainly taken it a bit more seriously than previous attempts at getting into this kind of stuff, but I think it's partly just from the side of the game itself. It's just so much more involved. You know, you do actually you see I guess you do get it in other games, but you really do see the benefit of putting in time and practice and stuff like that. And it's been pretty cool to do something constantly. Oh, hello.
Yeah, both of these guys have dogs, so they'll be maybe saying hello. Harambe was there. We'll maybe get the dog to say hello in a sec as well.
So for me, basically, I got the game when it was first released in early access because I was a massive fan of the original Assetto Corsa. So the big thing about the original Assetto Corsa was one of the first games to actually model differentials correctly, so you could do drifting. So you could it also modeled the clutch correctly in the way it would disengage and engage, and I think it was one of the first games to do actual accurate tire modeling rather than just having tires sort of exist. So I got the original ACC when it came out originally in early access, and I gotta be honest, it sucked, and the performance was terrible, and it was really hard to get into. And I
didn't have VR.
Yeah, it didn't have VR, which is a big thing for racing. I guess we'll get into that in a bit. But
yeah,
the newest updates of this since sort of January have been excellent. It's a totally different game, excellent game. It's easy to get into, and then it's one of those that sort of you can pick it up pretty quickly, but it's hard to master.
I like that you mentioned about the accuracy of it as well. So like the tyre modelling, one of my favourite things is that Pirelli pretty much worked with them and gave them an open book to all the data. So and you, one of you guys that told me that, and I think you guys are quite sort of up to date with the latest info on it. So what other examples or things have you found about just the attention to detail of the game when they they're putting in the detail about the different elements?
I think one of the big things in this kind of case is that, like you're saying, Pirelli got involved quite heavily, but actually as time has gone past, the teams themselves have got even more involved. I think two updates ago, which must have been about a month and a half or 2 months ago, Bentley gave them like a massive data dump basically, partly because of with the COVID situation and all of the esports driving becoming such a big thing, teams were suddenly like, we best give them some data because our car's being incorrectly kind of shown here and things like that.
And Aris has obviously put some really cool stuff out, and I think one of the other ones that I wanted to touch on for us is something that comes up quite a bit in racing, and particularly people that are newer to online racing. And I've mentioned it a couple of times whilst commentating, and it's when you're following somebody closely, and how to deal with that, because of course you see a lot of people go into the back of the car in front under braking, not intentionally, but they've just made a mistake, and that's due to something a bit more unique to online racing. So again, if you could maybe tell us a bit about that.
Well, one thing you'll notice about online racing is especially people aren't afraid of dying. So you don't...
That is true.
You come into the back of a car, you're driving up, you're both doing 140 mile an hour down the straight. You're not really that concerned about stopping because you'll stop and you won't die. Even if you're in VR, it'll just make you a little sick. So one of the things that a lot of people suffer with on online racing is being...
Rolling in VR is not fun.
Oh, it's really not. One of the things that people forget is that, for example, if you're following and you are 0.2 of a second behind a car, so you're 0.2 behind the car on the Monza straight, so you're what, 2-3 car lengths back, and you're like, well, I can close this gap by braking late. If he brakes at his correct braking marker and you brake at his correct braking marker, you're then going down to 10 mile an hour. 0.2 seconds at 10 mile an hour, you're in that guy's driver's seat. So a lot of people forget that you need to brake later, you need to brake a lot earlier even. You are not going to be able to brake at the same point because where you are in condition with the car and the time, you'll be inside that person's car. Now, the way to combat that is obviously you brake earlier and you modulate your braking to catch up, and then you can stay with them through the corner, you won't lose as much time. But a lot of people just want to get that pass. You'll see it especially if you watch a first lap of even a longer race. There's a lot of people that will aggressively go for the pass in the corners. They'll late brake, try and dive in, and they'll not realise that really it's also difficult to see for a lot of people that aren't playing in VR. So for example, if you have a flat screen like the one behind me, you're not...
A nice wallpaper on it, I might add.
Yeah, that's I don't think you can really see it with the light, but you can't turn your head at all. So you're looking straight out whatever field of view you've got. So you can't see out your rear mirror most of the time as well in these cars. So you can't see someone that's diving down your right hand side. And if they're not beside you and the spotter calls it out, the spotter's not going to pre-call out somebody's going to dive up on you because the game can't quite do that. But if somebody dives up on you and then you've got contact, then your race it's not over, but a lot of people, it's ruined it.
Yeah, And we, like I say, we see that quite a lot with newer drivers. But I think something I've noticed over time is that everyone's got better at running closer together with less mistakes. I mean, and Danny, I mean, how have you found that particular side of it? So being around other cars, is that something that you've had to sort of develop and learn more?
Yeah, I'd say certainly in the sense of, you know, I drive a car nearly every day. I know how to gauge the size of my vehicle and stuff like that, but that's on a road environment at road speeds. And when you're, you know, going from 200 odd kilometers an hour again down to this very low speed, you know, you again in like VR especially, you do get that big sensation of like when you drive on the motorway for 70 mile an hour and do that for half an hour and then go into a 30 zone, it feels like you're standing still almost. I think as well as going on to Kid's point about following a car and especially in a corner, a lot of people think it's kind of one on the braking, which in certain cases it is, but they also then a lot of the times having a very late braking into a corner, they just ruin their exit as well. And I've had many a times with you, Mackenzie, on that chat when you're just saying that, you know, somebody will late brake you, get past you, but then you're straight back on them and they're slowing you down because they're not actually that much quicker or even quicker. They just late braked you into a corner and got in front of you and then have ruined your lap times.
Yeah, you've heard me moan about that a few times, yeah.
Well, yeah, we all do, because again, people think that, you know, again, dive into the corner, I can get it. But again, they just mess out their exit and you have to sit behind them because you can't go anywhere.
And I think it brings up another sort of area or challenge of being able to lead rather than follow. Because when you follow, you kind of have that carrot dangling in front of you to chase. And yeah, it's one of my pet hates really, is like when somebody gets past you and then suddenly makes loads of mistakes and slows you up. So that's part of it as well. Sorry, Neil, go on.
It's part of the almost the strategy of racing as well, such as like you could really mess up and so you've got to go wide that corner, somebody dives on the inside of you and really late brakes you, and that's it. You think they think, oh well, I've got past them, but they could be slower for the next 3 corners because of that action, and then they're past again. So and then you've got 25 minutes more in the race, and there was no point in risking damage to the car or like going off, getting penalties, things like that. So you really need to think about, in our races are usually 2 30-minute races, and we see a lot of action in the first 5 minutes that doesn't necessarily need to happen because there's another 25 minutes to go, and we'll see it on the charity race. There'll be an hour and a half set out, we'll get a 22 car grid and watch the first lap. There'll be 2 or 3 people that are incredibly aggressive and they'll probably cause an accident or have an accident. They'll spin out and then they'll say, that's it, I've had enough, my tyres are ruined or whatever. But in reality, they've got another hour and 28 minutes worth of racing to do. They could easily get it back. People are going to smash, people are going to have long pit stops, there might be penalties, there'll just be people that are generally getting slower as the lap goes on. I know I get slower as the time goes on. I was dropping about 3 seconds a lap by the end. That lost me 2 places on the practice race.
I think it was interesting as well, you said it's not just the mistake once, but then for the next few corners you suffer as well, and that goes back to the tyre modelling, because you run off track, you go onto the dirty part of the circuit, you pick up some dirt and rubber and whatever else, or gravel if you go off the track, and then suddenly your tyres are, you know, ruined for the next half a lap or a lap. So it's all stuff that plays into it, and exactly the sort of things I wanted to kind of go over before we then dive into this 90-minute race, because it all play its part. Cool, alright guys, thank you very much for that. And last question then, other than yourselves of course, who do you see as the biggest competitors for the race?
I think time-wise, you put us around Fellows Garage, which is Andy and Steve's, and we're usually pretty neck and neck with those guys, swapping positions, and then Keithy Heathy's a bit of a wild card sometimes. Sometimes he can end up with us, sometimes he can end up ahead. Yeah. I don't expect us to be anywhere near you guys at the Stolmans.
Cool. Alright, well, best of luck for the race, and yeah, thanks very much.
That was really cool catching up with Neil and Danny. I thought, again, it just shows, you know, the interest that they're all taking in this. So
there's been a lot of time and effort from both of them as well. I think everyone's kind of played their own part, but these two guys have really sort of been involved. I think they had the first team as well, didn't they, with their
Sheba Garage.
Yeah, you saw the team boss in the video as well at one point.
Harambe made a small appearance there, but we didn't quite get the full frame Harambe. But you'll actually see on the side of the Sheba Garage cars, the Aston Martin machines they race, there is a small graphic of a little Sheba dog.
Yeah, it's really good. It's super different type of graphic really compared to all the others as well. So.
Yeah, it does stand out, which is quite nice. So yeah, that's a good point that we have a couple of teams racing in here tonight. So Sheba Garage is one, Fella's Garage is another one that's been around since the early days of us doing this. Like I say, a few months ago we started, and then Chrissy recently joined InGear Motorsport, which was my team. There's only Chrissy because I'm here doing commentating and not driving. So Chrissy's repping it for the orange.
I think he's a pretty good person though to have representing the team. If we look at his laps that he was just setting in free practice, he is fast, isn't he?
And I know he's been practicing hard. So in the practice race, he still didn't quite have the pace that he wanted to the Stallmans, which is the Vegas Sim Performance team. They've been absolutely rapid at a lot of our races that we've been doing on these streams, the Stallman guys from Germany. Chrissy, didn't quite have the pace of Dom Stallman last time out, so he's definitely practiced hard, like you say.
I think he learned a few lessons from that setup wise as well. Again, listening to that, I think he sort of tyre pressures just wasn't quite right and stuff. But that's why it's important to practice, because then he's got away for the week. And he's definitely, like I say, he's definitely a really good person to have on board, and we won't try and be too biased towards him during the race. But I think it's important to mention as well that Chrissy's actually has raced in the real world and raced at a very, very high level as well. So he's a extremely talented driver, isn't he? And I mean, again, you guys, did you actually race against one another? Or
never directly, no. We've done actually like a college motorsport course together, believe it or not. But that's another story for another day. Lots of stories to tell about that.
After 9 p.m.
Okay, so if you're just joining, before we do head into qualifying, this is all for charity. I'll say it one more time and then we'll be quiet for a little bit. But below us is a link at the moment. You won't see it again for a little while. So if you do want to donate, please make a note of that link. We will show it again later, but just not for a little bit.
You can find it via Instagram.
Yeah, and it's on all the profiles. So that will go straight to the Red Cross and support them in all of their causes they're doing around the world. So although it says British Red Cross in some places, it's of course a global charity. We have drivers racing from all around the world, from the Netherlands to Germany. We've had Americans join before. It's American circuit tonight, actually. And then, of course, we've got the guys from the UK, including Scotland, England, and Ireland. No Welsh yet. Any Welsh drivers want to join, hit us up. But let's just take a very quick look at the timetable, and then we'll dive into qualifying, which has just started, but plenty of time left to go and join that in a moment. So we've just finished our build-up show. Really hope you enjoyed the build-up show there. Qualifying stage started. That's 15 minutes, so we'll jump into that in a minute once things start getting a little bit hotter and heating up a little bit. And then the race is starting just after that at 7:50. So there'll be a small gap just for the drivers to get themselves ready. Final setup tweaks, and then we'll be racing for 90 minutes at 10 to 8. That will take us through to about 20 past 9. So bar a short break and drivers sorting themselves out, we should hope to be able to get them ready for an interview as well. So that's what's happening. You can see on the small screen on the side there that qualifying is underway. So we'll dive into that and start seeing what's happening. I think times are just about to start being posted on the board, but we saw in practice, like Charlotte said, Chrissy was looking very, very fast a minute ago. Dom Stallman has set the first lap of a 22.7, which was the fastest time in practice just now, I think.
Yeah, that's a bit more like it. I think he was running to P4, P5 in free practice. So, Dom's always very, very consistent in qualifying. A couple of races ago, he literally come in with a lap to spare, did his out lap, set the lap, and banged it on pole. But I think it's going to be really tight between him and Chrissy this evening. But you never know. We never know what could happen. We've got Casey, he was back in the race as well. He was in. That'll be interesting to see with him. We'll see. Yeah,
I mean, so Ben is in race control. We've also got George helping out tonight as well. So keep an eye on drivers and make sure everything's fair and how it should be. Casey was a little bit erratic the other night when we did a stream. So he was able to stay for the rest of that, and we'll keep an eye on him. But brings up the point that actually if drivers aren't behaving in this, as much as it is, a game or a sim racing, a simulation, we still want it to be fair and everyone to be able to enjoy it and have a competitive and fair race. and make it to the end. So if drivers do start doing things that are a little bit untoward, then race control can issue penalties, just like they would in a real race. So there's all that going on in the background as you watch this. Ben is also in control of the camera angles at the moment, so you can see we're just watching Chrissy Palmer there, the InGear Motorsport number 99 car, going through the screens into turn 1. And currently in 5th place. There's been a few drivers join. We've not quite got the full 24 car grid, but a 17 car grid at the moment. We've got our core bunch of drivers that have all registered and signed up for this. And then there's a few slots for members of the public to actually jump into as well. So you may see that number go back up a little bit, but yeah, we had about a 17 or 18 car race recently, and full of action, plenty of excitement. So lots to look forward to with the pack here. We've also got Michael Curran, who's on the scoreboard at the moment as well, who is new to the InGear Motorsport channel. And he's driving the Bentley when just recently joined West Midlands Motorsport with Kay Heath. Not from the West Midlands, but he's joined the West Midlands team with Kirk Heath, the man of many names, as we call him, because he's called Jeff Badgers in Discord, Kirk Heath on socials, and
I don't actually know
something else on here. Kay got Heath. Chrissy having a moment on our screens there, we just saw. You saw in that video, and it was actually Chrissy as an example that I used, almost bullying him a little bit, dropping a wheel on that track guide just now that you watched. That happening just on that qualifying lap. So that will probably not be his best lap as he comes to cross the line. What would be quite cool is if we could actually ride on board with one of the drivers in a minute and have a look at somebody else, and maybe one of the guys at the front of the grid, whether it's Dom or we've got R. Stallman in 4th. He's actually the father of D. Stallman. So we've actually got a father and son racing team in here. Casey actually very fast, by the way. 4 tenths off the pole at the moment. There we are. So this is D. Stallman, a slightly different livery from when he was last out. So it's black and red now, and then Roland Stallman, his teammate, is on a yellow and black livery as well. So those are Team Vegas in performance. You can see him coming up Rahal straight now into that blind drop into the corkscrew corners, turns 8 and 8A of this 11 corner lap at Laguna Seca. Remember, we saw in the video 18 metres drop from highest to lowest of that point there. And I think as he gets to this left-hander here, Charlotte, we were saying before, you told me that's something like 10 stories, was it?
Yeah, so the first part of the corners is it's actually 12%, so it's a 12% drop, and then by the time it got to 8A, so it's 8A and A I should say, which is quite rare in corners to have the names A and then B, or it's a bit bizarre.
Yeah,
I've never heard it on another circuit before. But
Crazy
yeah,
Americans.
Yeah, well, you said it, not me. Yeah, absolutely. So the first part of the corner, so the right, that's actually a 12% drop, and then it goes down to 18. Between turns 8 and 9, it actually goes down as far as 10 stories, but in one small section of that corner, it's 5.5 stories is what it works out to. So, I mean, for any of you guys that have been to Spa, or certainly seen Spa probably at some point, that's only about 3 or 4. So it just shows really how steep this track is as well. And again, it's something kind of, looking here, you can kind of see the adulation and you can see the camera on the tracks, but it's so much more than what sometimes this actually shows on the screen. So, and the guys will be feeling that as well, won't they? Kids, you've raced around here. I actually haven't driven around here on the game before. Would love to race in it in real life, but obviously it haven't. Tell me, what does it feel like on VR on this?
It's pretty cool, and I think the VR helps, as I sort of started chatting a little bit with Dan and Danny and Neil about before, because you just kind of get that sensation of where you are a little bit better. And when you've got runoff, like we're saying, that's so minimal, it just helps that a little bit more, I think, sometimes to not drop a wheel, but it's still incredibly hard regardless, just as it would be in the real world. But yeah, when you've just got a flat screen of a TV, even if you've got 3 screens, like one either side and one in front, I think you still struggle to get that depth of perception quite the same as VR, but then the quality is better on the screen than it is in VR, so the actual picture that you see is a higher quality. So there's pros and cons to both, absolutely, but yeah, I've raced around in VR. What's really tricky is when it starts to get to night time, and we've not actually touched on that yet, but this race will start in the afternoon, go to sunset, and then finish at night. So we've got a time multiplier on in our server, so we can control all of those sorts of things. So it's almost as if we've done a 12-hour race that started in the sort of middle of the day and finishes in the middle of the night. So that'll be quite cool to see how that affects the drivers in terms of making mistakes as well.
And again, that's something that you guys all agreed on as well, because in their Discord chat, and you guys, you vote on things that you want to do. You vote. This circuit was actually voted for quite early on in this sort of community that you built up, wasn't it? And you voted on the next tracks as well, because you've got the GT4s, and I guess we'll probably talk about that at some point later on this evening, about the GT4s and the championship that you're starting with that. But it's very much a you want to make this race for the guys and what the guys want to see out of this, rather than kind of making it, you know, quite sort of stupid. I mean, is there going to be any rain in this today? Has Danny P said it to be rain? Because we know that he likes to throw a spanner in the works in some of the races as well. What's he done there with that?
Well, before I answer that, I'm just going to say that Wayne Clark has said hello on Facebook, so say hello to Wayne. He actually said, "Hey, Charlotte."
We missed you, Wayne.
I haven't seen Wayne for a while.
So, Wayne, really good to speak to him. Wayne's son's actually racing in karts, and it is so good. Wayne's turned into an official karting dad. Wayne's raced before many, many years, but a bit like my dad, he'd become absolutely obsessed with carburetors, probably about, 2 months into his little boy racing. So hopefully he's been out on track, and I've seen Wayne's actually been out on track as well over the last
Wayne's been brushing the cobwebs off as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, hello Wayne, thanks for watching. We've also got Mark from MM Photography, sorry, so MM Photography.
Hi Mark.
Hello Mark, good to see you again. Looking forward to seeing you next week actually for some work we're doing. Very good photographer, Mark. If you need a photographer of cars, he's absolute legend. So
super talented, like
very
super
cool.
talented.
Done a film shoot recently with Neil Kidd, actually, one of the drivers in the race tonight. Right, let's take a look at qualifying, seeing as there's just under 4 minutes left. So if we could ask very kindly of our race director to head to the front. Look at that, he's ahead of us. So we can see Dee Stallman is on pole at the moment, provisional pole, with a 22.1. Well, they did dip into the 21.9s, 21.8s, was the absolute sort of fastest times we saw beforehand in our practices that we've done. So I think that time can be beaten, but very good so far. Interesting to see the progression Casey's made from before, but still 6/10 shy of where he needs to be at the moment. Then you've got Curran, as I said. M. Curran recently joined our little group in the Discord and has been chatting with the community. They'll be sporting the new livery that him and Kay Heath created for West Midlands Racing. So actually inspired by the Red Cross. So that's if we have a little mosey on over and have a look at Curran wherever he is on the track at the moment. Just one car further down, he was in P3, Mr. Race Director. There you go, look. I'm getting moaned at in my ear there, look, demanding camera angles.
Probably one thing that we should discuss about the camera angles as well. You know, when you watch F1 or British touring cars or something like that, there's a huge team working behind the scenes that can shoot from one corner to another, but actually with the game you have to scroll through different cars. So if you see that happening, that's because Ben's working really, really quickly in the background to try and get us to the cars. And that's the difference between e-sport and online racing as to what's going on in the real world at the moment. But it's one of those things. I think everyone has to deal with it, so we're doing our best with it. I think Ben's doing a good job, even though he's moaning at us.
like you say, Formula One and things like that, they have teams of probably in the hundreds of people, but certainly 10, 20 people just on one area. One of our friends actually does something like that. But
sorry to butt in there, but who's going to take dibs of trying to pronounce who's in P2 at the moment?
There's always one.
There's always one.
Always
really,
a member
really
of the public comes in with a crazy name that's hard.
I think we're just going to have
apologies if that is a name from your native country watching, but. So what I was going to say, Michael Curran on his entry form noted that he is racing with a wheel clamped to a desk in a cupboard under the stairs. I don't know how true that is, but if that is true, then his lap times are pretty impressive. Yeah, we've got our own Harry Potter racing in our street tonight. So he's recently joined with Kay Heath. You can see there the white and red livery to represent the Red Cross. So quite nice that they've done that.
Interesting enough, just to see the time difference between the Stallmans. So the Stallmans are obviously a father-son duo, and many of you'll know this after watching over the last couple of weeks. They go out and qualifying together. They usually are in the races there or thereabouts together the whole time. But our Stallman's about a second off of where Dom is at the moment, which is quite strange because they will be sharing the same setups. We know that they was online last night practicing, so we'll see. I mean, we've probably got one last lap left. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he can make a little bit of time up there. Danny Price there, though, is looking really, really strong. And that's one competitor that really, over the last couple of weeks, has really upped his game of pure outright pace. And his qualifying laps have got much, much better. But actually, his racecraft over the last few weeks, we've seen has just improved sort of leaps and bounds, hasn't it? It was never bad, but he really is now up at the pointy end, and it's actually something that I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago was about endurance, and you know, it was something that he was concerned about going into this week and into this weekend's race. So it'll be good to see how he gets on, and we'll be following them closely because, you know, I want Danny to have a really good result. He's same as you guys. He's put in an awful lot of work to make this happen from his end with the servers.
Yeah, and I was just sort of making note that it's Porsche 991 GT3 car first, second and third at the moment. So Porsche very, very strong around here, as it is on a number of tracks. It seems to be a very good car in this game. But we have seen that, you know, other cars can be faster than it on occasions. Bentley's been looking pretty good, Chrissy in the Mercedes. So we've still got a couple other manufacturers up there. And then Danny Price also, as we just said, is well inside the top 10 there in P8 with the Aston Martin. So we have got a bit of a mix, but the Porsche looking very, very strong so far, as qualifying is drawing to a close. It has stopped on 0, but that does mean the drivers can still finish their lap. So it's not quite over yet. So we'll stick on this for a moment and see if there's anyone still out there. The checkered flag means that they're finished for qualifying, but the other cars that have green next to their name are still either lapping or in the pits and could have lapped. So we'll give it a minute and see where everyone ends up. Looking like most people are back. There's David Murray, one of the other sort of newer drivers to join us. So he's actually based in Scotland, quite close to Neil Kidd and Steez, who's another of our drivers. But we will have a look at the full grid in just a moment's time. Here is a short advert for tonight's charity, the Red Cross.
If we shrunk the world to a village of 100 people, it would look like this. 5 people contract malaria, 15 live in slums, 15 are illiterate, 15 do not have safe drinking water, and 30 suffer from malnutrition. Let's hope the rest are volunteers.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our live charity race here at Laguna Seca. Qualifying has finished, and we can take a look at the drivers on the grid right now. So you can see it was D. Stallman who is in pole position at the moment. Then you've got the name that we don't want to have a go at pronouncing in second in another
We'll
Porsche.
go NK.
Casey having a fantastic qualifying in third place. Then M. Curran in the Bentley, the West Midlands Motorsport team, in fourth. Chrissy Palmer repping InGear Motorsport tonight in fifth. Kay Heath sixth. R. Stallman, the father of D. Stallman, seventh. Danny Price, eighth. Klimpson, one of our regulars from Fellas Racing, in ninth. Then you've got D. Oliveira in 10th. Cowie, who's another one of our regulars. Then Steez. Then O'Brien. Dan O'Brien, quick shout, hasn't had much practice due to technical reasons this week, so very good effort from him.
Yeah.
Neil Kidd in 14th. Another hard one, Krupenhand in 15th. Dean Murray, good improvement for him actually, from where he was a few races ago. And then there's the last few grid. And the drivers are making their way off now, so let's go and tune into this short formation lap. And it's actually a formation half a lap that we run in this game. So they'll be currently looking at a HUD on their screen that will tell them whether to speed up or slow down based on the cars around them. If they go too far out of that, they can get a penalty. If they jump the start too early, they can get a penalty. And if they do something that our race director, Ben Meikle, doesn't like, they can get a penalty. So drivers have to keep their best behaviour.
Fingers crossed none of that's going to happen though.
We'll be hoping for a nice clean start here, but it is so difficult. It's not the widest of tracks. These are big wide cars. The Bentley is actually over just on 3.5 meters long, or just under, sorry. So very long car there, the Bentley on your screen of Curran. Interesting to see how it's going to go, but yeah, we're rounding the last corner now. Let's get full screen up for you, ready to watch the race live at Laguna Seca. Charlotte, really quickly, who's your money on?
I don't know. I'm going to go
One
Chrissy
second,
Palmer.
go. Chrissy Palmer. Okay, good, me too. Okay, lights going out any second. Stand by.
Green light, green light. Go, go,
Green
go.
light for our Laguna Seca charity race. The drivers are off, thundering down to turn 1, looking nice and clean so far. How's the first braking zone going to go? Very, very level, neck and neck. Casey holding the inside line over Curran. Chrissy getting a nice inside run. He might be able to make a run here. Double apex left-hander, so he's holding nice and tight. Good start for Chrissy. Curran getting forced out wide, touching the gravel a little bit. There's Heath in the other Bentley, you can see. Slightly different colour wing mirrors there, so you can tell those two apart. So still, D. Stallman hangs on to his lead. The second place name we can't say in second. Oh, bit of incident behind us there in the background. I didn't quite catch which cars that was.
Looked like the two Aston Martins from Sheep.
Steve's getting caught up with somebody back there, but I didn't see the other car. But still, the two Bentleys almost two abreast going into the first fast left-hander. Then we'll come through into the second fast left-hander. Don't forget these sausage curves are there that we saw in the track guide. If they hit them, that's going to cause problems. But the front sort of 5, 6, 7 getting away nice and cleanly. It saw a bit of a mid-pack incident. But all in all, that wasn't too bad a start. I'm pleased everyone's got away relatively cleanly, but a bit unfortunate for Steves. We will eventually get some replays of these things later on. It's not quite as easy as the real world, but we'll do our best to find out what happened with that and let you know in a bit. So you're seeing the two Bentleys at the moment, following, what's that, at the moment, 5th and 6th for Heath and Curran. We're going to have a look at this name. Let's go for Kalen Kuglu for second place at the moment. Charlotte's up out of her seat in the excitement of this. I think I was about to do the same just there. Chrissy looking like he's hanging on to the back of those front 2 at the moment, or front 3 I should say. Yeah, you can see there that little pack. So no one breaking away too far just yet out of the cars.
Now this is where we need the Porsches, or really the Porsches should be thinking about working together. Yeah, absolutely, they're not going to be working together towards the end of the race, but if they can break away and get a good amount of seconds gap, that's really going to help them, because don't forget there's going to be a pit stop in this race. There was talks about people trying to do the whole race on one set of tyres, but I think most people are going to go for a one sort of a tyre change stop in the middle, and certainly going to have to refuel at some point as well. So if they can just work together, break away, and this is where Chrissy's real life racing experience is really going to play in. He's going to know not to try and go for any stupid moves or anything like that, but just to kind of sit there, follow the pack, watch where mistakes are being made, and then he'll make his move absolutely when he sees the right point to do so.
And you just saw Casey going a little bit deep there into turn 8, the corkscrew, and losing a little bit of time. So Chrissy's going to be all over the back of him now. You know, less than a second behind him, 7 or 5 or 6 tenths even. So not much of a gap between them two. That could change a little bit as we move forward. Quite close still at the front. Like Charlotte says, there's a long way to go yet. You can see at the top there, 1 hour and 27 minutes. We have pit stops to contend with, and we've left it completely open for strategy. We could have imposed refueling or changing of tyres, but if somebody wanted to, they could put their car on a fuel-saving map and trickle around the whole time without stopping. So that's probably not the best strategy, and I think most analysts will tell you not to do that, but it's absolutely something that people could do. And it's just another element as we watch this race, and it will all unfold. I'm pleased this front pack has still got away. They're all actually within the sort of same second or 2 a lap time, which means those strategy elements or a small mistake somewhere will make such a difference in the later phases of this race. The Bentley's looking very, very close onto the back of Casey there. It's a very hard track to overtake, and certainly to overtake cleanly, but you can see at the moment actually the Bentley of Curran trying to find his way past of Casey. Heath will be on the back of him as well. You can see he's actually had a bit of a look and then lost some time, and now Heath is all over the back of Curran, and they're both going 2 abreast into the corkscrew at the moment. We'll see how that goes for them.
This is very much
it's very hard to tell those two apart. They've just changed their liveries tonight, but I think they've stayed the same way round, so still Curran heading Heath. Them two will want to make sure they don't fight too much. Yeah, car 102 I've just seen is in second of the 2 Bentleys. So Heath actually has got through. Heath making a move there at the corkscrew on his teammate as we head on to what will be lap 3 at the moment of this race. Well, it's all happening straight away then. R. Stallman down in 7th, Clemson having a good start. We should probably add, making his way up to 8th. So he's made a few places in this race already. That's one of the Fellas Racing guys there. You can see the red and white Nissan on your screen, car 20. Sporting plenty of sponsors on the side of that car. And if you're a fan of Rick and Morty, you will spot a little pickle Rick on the back there. If you don't know what Rick and Morty is, you'll have no idea what that is. So at the moment then, it still looks like D. Stallman in the lead. Let's take a bit of a run through. Dan O'Brien actually up to 10th. We'll come back to that in a moment. So still D. Stallman in the lead. Kyan Kuglu in 2nd. Palmer 3rd. Casey 4th. Heath 5th. Good start from Heath then, making his way past his teammate. Curran in 6th. Stallman 7th. Clinton 8th. D. Price, one of our Sheila Garage guys that we caught up with before the race, in 9th. D. O'Brien in 10th. And then D. Oliveira, another Porsche, going quite well in 11th. Then Kidd has made up 2 places from his starting grid to 12th. And then we have HBPK in the Ferrari. A little bit of history for you. The first race ever ran in 1957 was won by a Ferrari here. A little bit different to the Ferraris of today, but the first Ferrari on the grid at the moment up into 13th place. Stephen Cowie, new to InGear Motorsport and recently joined our Discord and our community, which is all free to join, by the way. You can come and join these races. It's not just this charity race. We race live once every week at least. D. Murray doing well there in 15th. It looks like we've still got most of the grid running. At races like this, it's very, very intimidating if you have an incident at the start, or more so disheartening. Drivers can very easily kind of, especially online, just decide that they've had a bad start and leave. But actually, everyone putting in a good solid effort so far, and even Steez, we have to give a shout out to Steez here. I don't know if he's pitted or not, but he certainly had an incident at the start. Whether he picked up damage, of course, we can't tell for sure, but yeah, bad start for him as he runs wide onto the gravel there, looking like he's having a bit of a hard time. So that let Dean Murray come through, but back at the front, still very tight. And actually, there's been a change. Kyan Kuglo has gone through into the lead. We really need to find out what his first name is. That might be easier. Kyan Kuglo in the lead. There's always a member of the public that joins and does this to us. Nuri, there we are. My trusty race director has just fed into my ears. His name's Nuri. There we are. So Nuri, and most of the drivers we know in our race tonight, but yeah, there's a couple that have joined last minute and set blistering times, which is fascinating to see. So Stallman hanging on to the back of him 2nd, and that means it's Porsche 1st, Porsche 2nd, and Mercedes AMG 3rd.
You can see Chrissy just coming over the crest of the hill there, and if these two fight enough, this is going to give Chrissy the perfect opportunity to get onto the back of them and potentially make a move as well. Because what we have to remember, we have to think about tyre wear and how these guys are managing tyres. Again, when it's usually a sprint race, it's absolutely something that you have to consider, but not to the level, to the degree that you have to do in a 90-minute race. So these guys, if they keep pushing, they could end up clicking their tyres and then shortening up the gap between Chris and Palmer.
And it does seem that we've lost Heath in our top 8. So Curran's back into 5th and Heath seems to have disappeared. So Casey looks like he might have just spearheaded off into the wall there. That was an exact moment we talked about in the track guide of dropping a wheel.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate for him because he's got a lot of pace but just can't seem to get consistent lap times. He's falling down the order because of it. We'll see if we can find out from Heath. Maybe George or Ben or someone can find out on the replay what happened and let us know. And we'll let you know what to know. But I've been neglecting my chat shout-out duties, so just quickly, Paulina, regularly supporting us in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us again tonight. She says good luck to everybody. We had Andrea C saying go Kirky. So Kirk being one of the names that we use for K. Heath or Jeff Badgers. Carl Bentley that we're trying to find out. And then also Athos Mario. Hello guys, welcome to the chat and the live stream. Thank you very much for taking the time to comment and watch tonight. Hopefully we'll find out how Keith's getting on in a moment. We call him Keith, by the way, as a nickname, but K. Heath. We'll see how he gets on in just a moment.
Well, one driver just to touch upon there is Dan O'Brien. So Dan's had a lot of issues this week with his computer setup and getting it to work. It was actually frantically texting you, Mackenzie, wasn't he? Sort of probably about 5:30, still trying to get things set up. So his track time that he's actually done around here is very, very, very minimal because he couldn't join that race on Tuesday. He's done no testing. It's a really impressive race that he's done so far here. So I think he qualified P13, P14, I think he ended up. So he's already made. And if he just carries on chipping away, it just shows that he's got the pace there with this. So real good effort by Dan.
And you can see he's got the Porsche of D. Oliveira behind him at the moment, applying pressure and in fact going through, probably bringing Heath through with him. So that's where Heath ended up, was back in 11th. So we don't know what caused that for Heath yet, but that's also Bentley on Bentley. Another interesting thing is that the guys actually share setups on our Discord. So InGear Motorsport have a Discord server where we can all join, share setups and discuss. And I know Dan O'Brien has actually taken the same setup as Heath. So unless they've tweaked it again, these two are running identical setups for this race, bar maybe some minor tweaks. So it really is driver versus driver at the moment. But Heath all over the back of Dan O'Brien. So you can see then O'Brien, the black and sort of light green Bentley on your screen there, the lead of the two Bentleys, and then Heath, the white and red one, just behind. Heath being in car number 38. As they cross the start-finish line down to Andretti hairpin, turn 1, on double apex left. Another fan of Kirk, nobody likes Dave, has commented saying you can do it, Kirk. And I think it'll be an interesting race actually for Heath now, because he's got the pace to be actually more like 5th or 6th, but he's down in 11th. So we'll see him coming through. The main thing for him is going to be now not getting caught up in the incident, because you can chip away with an hour and 20 on the clock and come back through to a pretty strong place, particularly if the front three start fighting. So, you know, an interesting race for him. Dan O'Brien going defensive here into the first of the fast lefts. Heath on the outside. Heath passing round the outside there. That was really, really good stuff. And that's an off-camber corner with those marbles that we looked at in the track guide earlier on. That was a fantastic move by Heath. So the pair dropping down into the corkscrew. Now that in some ways will help Dan O'Brien, because now it's happened, he can focus on tucking in behind Heath and hopefully trying to go with him a little bit. He's had a bit more track time around here than Dan O'Brien, so Dan O'Brien very much playing catch up with everyone else who's had working PCs and sim rigs all week to be able to continue practicing. But yeah, he's literally had about, like I said, 45 minutes to an hour today of that. So he's really fighting a good fight right now. Heath off and released then to go and chase down the next car, which is a Livriera, who's not too far ahead of him. You can see just ahead on your screen there, in front of Heath, so that'll be his next challenge. Let's see then, Neil Kidd just a little bit off of Dan O'Brien. Again, that'll be interesting later race. But Aston Martin particularly good on tyres and fuel. The Bentley a little bit harder so. So again, that's a later race thing to be watching out for with those two. So we've just heard then that the issue with Heath was he had a bit of a spin. Doesn't sound like any foul play or contact. He just had a bit of a lapse in concentration there, and the car spun. So that's what cost Heath, luckily, only a few places, and he's still very much in this race. So back towards the sharper end then, Casey trying to make up for his mistakes earlier on. He's now just on the back of our Stallman, Roland Stallman, one of our two German drivers here from Augsburg in Germany. So very much South Germany, those two are from. Father and son team, like I said, Dom currently at the front in second. Casey all over the back of our Stallman trying to make a move here as they drop into the last corner. It doesn't look like he's close enough to do anything sensible. Those pair on the back of Heath's teammate Curran, currently in fourth. Already we're over 10 minutes through this race, in fact nearly 13 minutes, and still we've got a lot of close racing going on, Charlotte.
Yeah, I think that's great. Sometimes it can start to drift off. We know that the leaders are kind of out there, but there's each sort of little pack that we've got here seems to be having their own fight and their own race between them. I'm going to be really interested. I'm kind of watching here, sort of staring intently at the screen just to see exactly what's going to happen with R. Stallman and Casey. Because on Tuesday, I think we can be honest, we did have some issues. Casey's very, very, very fast. It can become a little bit erratic with his moves, and he tries to kind of do some Valentino Rossi moves. If any of you guys have seen that race, can't remember what year it is, but got a good few years ago now, where Rossi was doing some moves that completely I think shook Stoner massively from them. So it's going to be interesting to see where he's putting his car, but you can see he's all over the back of our Stallman there, and he's trying to get in his mirrors, and that's one thing that you do see and you can effectively do, and it's a tactic that a lot of drivers use in the real world, and it's getting in people's mirrors because it does distract them. Sometimes flashing lights, things like that. So he's doing that, but sometimes he's just making his car a little bit too wide, and then that's when he's clipping those sausage curbs that you was discussing in the track guide earlier. So fingers crossed that's not going to happen. It's going to be some good clean racing because we don't want to see any casualties through stupid moves, but it's going to be good to see how this plays out.
So still plenty of action going on, and the front guys now, it's starting to settle down just a little bit. By the way, a couple other supporters for Heath in chat. Lenny Works, Do It Kirk, we're watching you dude, and Liam Sharman, loving watching Mr. Badgers. So again, couple of different names cropping up there for Mr. Heath.
I think if there was a vote for the spectators' favourite, I think he's absolutely smashing it out of the park at the moment.
And he's such a wonderful guy, super happy and optimistic. He even said on his own entry form, you know, super happy, enthusiastic guy. Heath likes photography, steam engines, and race cars. So, doing one of the three things that he's a fan of tonight, racing around in race cars. I know he's been to a lot of different racetracks as well. Maybe if we've got a few of his friends in chat by the looks of it, they could dish the dirt and give us some more interesting facts about Mr. Heath. Feel free to let us know.
Free.
But yeah, if you're watching this, everyone, don't forget across our different channels on our Facebooks, our Twitches, and YouTube that you can comment, and Charlotte and I will see it. So we'll do our best to keep on top of those as we go. And of course, if you have joined recently, tonight is all about raising money for the Red Cross. It's a global charity, and we have a race here with drivers all around the world. So very fitting charity for us to raise money for and race for tonight. Here's a quick ad with the link that you'll need to donate, and then we'll be back to racing in just a sec. So there you go, that was the donation link, so bit.ly/IGM Red Cross, and you can go ahead and make a donation. And I don't know if I should be letting you in on this, but if you do donate, you can type a message that will appear on this screen right here. So please keep it nice and friendly, but yeah, you can say whatever you like, cheer on your favourite driver. Keep it PC, this is for charity after all. But yeah, you can donate, and that will then come up on our screens, and again, we'll do our best to see that as well. So that link will also be in the descriptions across the different channels or comments, depending where you're watching. So you should be able to find it, but again, just let us know in chat if you can't. Anyway, back to racing. Chrissy Palmer then in third place, less than a second behind Dee Stallman in second, as the leader, Neri, approaches lap number 12 going through the final hairpin. Front pack still nice and close together in the grand scheme of things. Small little cushion between Neri and Stallman, but quite interesting then. This random pubber really that's joined and none of us have seen before, has just joined the server tonight, is absolutely flying at the moment and giving two of our strongest drivers, Chrissy and Dom Stallman, a pretty hard time at the moment. So they'll be racing nice and hard. I know Chrissy has been working on his setup to try and go longer into the race without any issues. He had a bit of problem with tyres later on in the race for our practice. All things that the drivers will be managing right now. It's not just a game. It is a simulation. The tyres have a tyre model. There's an open book almost with Pirelli just giving the game designers all of this information to allow them to make it super accurate. So if they get hot, they will lose grip. If they get too cold, maybe when it's getting darker and becoming nighttime later on, they will lose grip. If your pressures go too high or too low, they will lose grip. So there's all these different things that drivers got to manage. And depending how you drive the car, you can drive around those sorts of problems. You'll notice as well, again, just very much like a real world circuit, the track is getting darker as the track evolution continues to unfold in front of us. And that's where the driver's tyres are putting rubber down onto the circuit. And while that's happening, little chunks of rubber are peeling off and appearing on the outside as marbles.
Yeah, just watching here, I'm sort of sat intently watching the timings at the moment. That's why I keep going a little bit quiet. But Chrissy's just actually gained 3 tenths on Dee Stallman here. I wonder, setup-wise, whether Chrissy's kind of gone for the long game here, which will be quite interesting to see. Because if he can just keep chipping away at it, that's going to be ideal. But then, as I've just said that, he has been just had a little bit of a moment, and he's now just over a second off there. Also, the Aston Martin, I think they're lapping that Aston Martin there that's just joined on the screen behind them.
Yeah, that may be Dee Murray, who I think got caught up in some trouble at the start. Yeah, it is Dee Murray. So
amazing.
I don't know, he was around these Niall Steeves earlier on in his troubles. So drivers coming around on him fairly quickly, it would seem.
Yeah, and again, we mentioned this earlier in free practice and qualifying, but this is actually a very, very short lap. It's a very busy lap. He's only got 11 turns, and like we said, when we're doing 1 minute 22 seconds a lap, that's fast for some of these circuits. I mean, you guys have raced on some of the biggest circuits over the last couple of weeks, Nürburgring, you've been at Spa, so this is kind of a very different, and I think this track actually suits a lot of drivers that are in the game. I think a lot of guys like tracks like Brands GP, Brands Indy, the sort of those tight, twisty circuits. So it does seem to suit a lot of their driving styles out there. But yeah, back watching this sort of chase between Dee Stallman and Chrissy Palmer there, you know, they're sticking together quite tightly. It's just timing, and this will be interesting to see who makes the move as to when the first pit stop's going to be. This is going to be a lot down to strategy as well.
So we've had another donation, which was from Lynn, which is my mum. So hello, mum. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much for your donation towards the Red Cross tonight. So that did flash up on your screens a minute ago if you didn't see it, but yeah, so thank you very much for that. So we're currently at then £478 towards our £1,000 target. So I know a few people were saving donations until during the race, so it comes up. So hopefully a few more to come, but thank you so much to everyone that's donated already. And again, those links in your descriptions. Everyone's doing this for the Red Cross tonight. You can see some of the guys have Red Cross logos on their cars as well. So again, just in support of all of this.
So we're actually just getting it fed through here. We're just looking on our comms chat at the moment, and we have got the Heath incident coming up, and we've got a replay of that. So George is frantically working in the background, because like we say, this isn't like normal motorsport where we can get the clip really quickly. So we've got George in the background working really hard to make these clips happen for us, and he did actually make contact. So we're going to be showing that ASAP as soon as we can get that video ready for you. And that's quite unlike him to make any contact. He's a very, very clean, fair driver, very respectful driver. So again, I don't think there'll be any intent behind it. I could be speaking a little bit too soon here, but it'll be good to see what's happened there. But he's chipping away at it, and he'll get himself back up to kind of the pointy end where he usually finds himself there.
Yeah, and like the guy said when I had the chat with Danny and Kid, it's very easy to make contact without needing to, just because you can't always tell what's around you. And the game can't simulate a spotter telling you somebody's about to make a move, so it's not always obvious that somebody's even there. So yeah, that can make it quite hard.
So if we could just start to have a little look to see what's down at the bottom end of the grid. I'm just looking there to see where Dan O'Brien's gone, because him and Price, they were kind of all around the same markers there, so I'm wondering what's happened. Oh no, he's still in the same position, so he's still in P9. Like we say, it's a really, really good effort from Dan O'Brien there. He's had so many issues, so it's going to be interesting to see how he can progress through this race, because I know he was talking to you just before the race started about pit stops and how to get them set up, etc. So
yeah, and like Charlotte said, we'll have a replay of the Heath moment coming up shortly, so we'll have to look at that. So yeah, Dan O'Brien still, chipping away at it as such, from where he started back around the 15th mark. Neil Kidd running wide onto the gravel in your background there on the Aston Martin racing machine.
Neil will be pushing really, really hard there to get onto the back of Dan O'Brien, because he'll know that he's got Kidd again. He's someone that we've spoken about. He's really, really improved over the last few weeks. His racecraft, he's up there in the pointy end usually now, isn't he? So he'll be pushing hard to get onto the back of them, and he's got he's got a 2-second gap now where he ran off there. And this is the issue with this circuit, is that he was actually only 8/10 off of Dan O'Brien, but where he just pushed that a little bit too hard, there is no runoff on this circuit. So if you are dropping a wheel, you're dropping it into gravel, which is obviously going to slow you down, but also it's going to make your tyres dirty. So you've then got to bear in mind for the next couple of corners that you're running on dirty tyres, which is not a situation that you want on a circuit as technical as what this is.
Yeah, you often say you don't pay for a mistake just once, you pay for it multiple times, because one, the tyres will be dirty, and two, you'll probably take that corner more cautiously the next time round. So consistency really is key in these endurance races like this.
Oh, so I've got Dan O'Brien's lovely girlfriend and one of my best friends WhatsApping me as this is going on, going, I'm going to donate, but it's absolutely peeing it down. I'm just going to do it in the morning, so thanks so much, Shani.
What's the weather got to do with it?
Well, she doesn't want to get rained on, I don't blame her. Shannon is really great with this. She's perfect at running up and always giving Danny snacks and hydration in between the races when they're shorter races. So she's been watching, and again, it's been nice for us because we can talk about it on a social quid. The boys aren't getting out to go properly racing this year. It's not something that's happening. So this is just another way, and we kind of felt like this morning as well. It was kind of waking up on race morning, didn't we? There was sort of a lot of hype around this race, and there's been a lot of build up to it. So it's really exciting to see that it's coming sort of into its full glory as such with it. So I'm just watching there. So Neil, again, he's just dropped off another 2 seconds off of Dan O'Brien. So this has really sort of affected Neil's kind of momentum there. Neil's quite good though at getting back on it. So give it another lap or so, and I'm sure that he'll slowly start to chip away at that gap. But like you say, Mackenzie, you don't pay for a mistake just once, certainly around a circuit like this. So we actually started to see this, or I spotted it on Tuesday. It got around sort of at this point in the race where you could start to see mistakes happening. And this is because it's starting to get past the point of the 11th time that these guys are usually allowed to, or normally racing with. So fatigue starts to going to hit in, and they get hot as well, don't they?
It's very, very hot, especially in VR. Right, I've just heard we've got this replay from what happened to Heath earlier on. So Jeff Badger, Kay Heath, Keefy fans, here is a replay. We'll have a watch of that, and then we'll have a discussion afterwards. So that was Curran going through on Heath. So actually, that was exactly what we were saying, where you just don't always know what's around you, and it's such a hard track to overtake. That would have not been malicious at all. And by the apex of the corner, without watching it loads of times, it looked like Curran was pretty far through.
Yeah.
To the point that actually it was Heath's front right that caught Curran's rear left, and then caused Heath to sort of head off onto the gravel a little bit. Didn't look like it would have caused too much damage. That they are quite delicate, the car, so he certainly might be feeling some pain, Kay Heath there. But yeah, I think arguably a bit of a late lunge considering it was on his teammate there from Curran. He's seemed quite sensible in the races we've seen so far, so I don't think that would have been malicious.
No, and the guys will be talking to each other, so we're all in a separate Discord chat because we know that the guys are constantly talking to one another around saying, yeah, I'm up the inside, give us a bit of space here, not to let them through, but just to give space. And again, this is where we're going to really start to see this as well, because we just saw the blue flag starting to come out there. So, you know, we're not even halfway through this race, and drivers are starting to get lapped now, and it goes down to that lap in such a short lap. So they're going to be talking to one another. This is where it's just a bit of common sense, really, isn't it? Just having to negotiate round and, you know, not trying to affect. People are effectively racing two different races when it starts to get to this point of being lapped, and it's something that we'll see as well. Is going to be a lot of blue flags when the grid is going to get messed up. The moment that the pit stop starts to happen, this is where our work is really cut out, having to work out who's where, because it's all going to be sort of jumbled about a little bit there. So sorry, Mackenzie, just butting in there. We can just see that Chrissy's pace is starting to drop off to the Stallman's there. So he's now a second and a half of Stallman. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that gap fluctuating a little bit. He looked very racy the minute ago. I mean, knowing Chrissy, it's entirely possible that he decided to back off a tiny bit so that he could, you know, take more of a run at it. But I'm not so sure, particularly now that he's falling into the grips of the Porsche behind him. It says Curran is behind him, but that looks a lot like Casey to me on my screen. And that'll just be where some cars are getting lapped, I think. So Casey, although being very fast, probably got a little bit caught out there with some bad moments going off, and has either just been lapped or joined in just behind these guys. So that'll probably be why you're seeing an out-of-place Porsche there on your screens. There we are. So you can see there now with our slightly different sort of scoring scoreboard that the blue cars are about to be lapped, and yeah, or have just been lapped. So you see Casey has actually just been lapped and is actually in 13th, not 4th. And then Curran 11 seconds back from Chrissy. So Chrissy has got a bit of breathing space to the next car that he's actually racing against for the moment, and about a second and a half to the car in front of D. Stallman. Still all very much to play for then out of these front guys. There's not much in it, so 4 seconds. In fact, not even that. Yeah, 4 seconds between Chrissy and the leader, but Pete Stallman only 3 seconds behind the leader. So top three, absolutely, this could go either way at this point in the race. We're still yet to have pit stops. We'll probably start seeing that in the next sort of 10, 20 minutes time as we start heading towards the sort of half race distance point. different drivers opting for different strategies. As I said earlier, it's completely open for them to do whatever they feel they want. So some drivers will have fully brimmed the fuel tank before this, and will go all the way to probably the last 20 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of the race before they have to refuel to finish. Some guys will opt to stop a bit sooner, put a different set of tyres on. They may not even change their tyres and do the whole race on one set. It adds about 15 seconds to your pit stop time changing tyres in this game. So pit stop will be somewhere around about a minute, if that, 45 seconds to a minute, depending on how well you get in and out of the pit lane, pit exit, pit entry. So yeah, there's all these different things that they can change. They can, if they want to, change their brake pads just like they would in real GT3 racing. So again, they'd have already planned that out, or hopefully they will have planned that out. As I say that, you may find some people desperately scrolling through the menus that they have on screen while they're driving. That's great if you're at a track like Monza, because you have really long straights to think about what you're going to do with the menus. But yeah, on a track like this, you don't want to be cycling through menus trying to change settings and setups ready for your pit stop. Chrissy making inroads onto D. Stallman again, just as we slated his lap times a little bit. He's now under a second to the Porsche of D. Stallman in front, pushing really, really hard. But Neri still out front, and it's now Porsche, Mercedes, Porsche, Bentley, and that will be our top 5 at the moment.
So we're 1/3 through the race now, so we've just broken into the last 59 minutes of this race. So that will seem like a little bit of a relief for the guys, but it's still a long hour less worth of racing, which is just shows that it's going to be so much more action to be had with this. And yet you can see there that we are starting to see some of the cars being overtaken. And like I say, they've just got to negotiate around one another and be sensible. I might actually drop in on the chat just to see what the boys are saying and see what's going on in the middle of the race when we start to see something coming in for a pit stop.
Yeah, so anytime now, we'll try and keep an eye out for that and see if we can catch them in the pits. So let's take a little bit of a run down the order then and see. So we've got then Neri in the lead, Stallman in second, Chrissy Palmer in third, Curran in fourth, Stallman in fifth. So our Stallman in fifth, that is Roland Stallman, the father and son team racing for Team Vega Performance. Michael Curran there on our screen at the moment. As I said, Stallman behind him, Clemson up into sixth. Very good run for him and his fella's racing car. Heath still having a bit of a nightmare, has gone back to 14th. So Heath, we know, has got the ability to do some fast lap times, and definitely not over yet, but not the best start to his race for him so far in our InGear Motorsport charity race for the Red Cross. D Price then behind Clemson in 7th. De Oliveira in 8th in the Porsche as well. Lots of Porsches out tonight. D Murray's in the middle of that, but he's being lapped, as you can see, because his name's in blue in the Aston Martin. Dan O'Brien in 9th, as we said, very little practice, so he's still going very, very strong. And still within striking distance to pick up the pieces of any incidents that may happen ahead as we move into the next phase of this race. Stephen Cowie, good first race for him with us in the Nissan. So we've got a couple of Nissans inside the top 10, a couple of Bentleys, an Aston Martin, and then the rest are Porsches.
Mix of different manufacturers as well, and it's good to see that it's not just one manufacturer that's clearly dominant with it.
Yeah, so all the Porsches are strong. There is a nice mix, which is great. Kidd then in 11th place in his Aston Martin Racing Sheep Garage machine. Niall Stees then having a bit of a comeback. Remember, we saw him actually spinning earlier in the race and having a bit of a nightmare as well. So he's now 13 seconds behind Neil. So I reckon in about 15, 20 minutes time, it's entirely possible we'll see those two having a little bit of a fight. So 15 drivers in the race after 20 started, I think it was. And so a couple less short of where we were originally, but still plenty of drivers in this race. And I definitely think that top 3 are going to have a almighty battle at some point. It just takes one mistake to kind of let the pin out, and then it's all going to explode and action everywhere. So that's just waiting to happen at some point. There's Neri then. As you can see, we're quite far into this race now, over half an hour. So approaching the 35-minute mark, and still it's only 3 seconds to the car behind him. It's one of the great things about GT racing is you can get this far into the race. I mean, think about Formula 1, 30 minutes in, you can see somebody, 20, 30 seconds up the road sometimes. We've been quite lucky so far this year. I think they've been quite close races, but you get the point. GT racing very close, and the sim racing's been pretty good so far as well. So perhaps we could ride on board with Neri for a lap as he heads down the corkscrew. That would be quite interesting just to see it from his point of view. Black Porsche there with the purple highlights and accents on the car. Well, we get to enjoy the race director navigating the camera system in this game as we jump into the cockpit. Perfect timing for our screen to freeze in here. There we are. Right, so coming out of the last hairpin, we're heading across to the start-finish line, and we will drop downhill towards that first double apex left-hander. Up into gear 5, ready to hit the brakes at that 300-metre braking board. Nice and tight, very nice and tidy so far. Clip both apexes, squeeze the power on. No hesitation in the car whatsoever. It looks absolutely planted.
Yeah, it looks completely settled through that section, doesn't it? It looks really, really good, really well sort of lined up through the whole way of there. He's using a lot of space on the set. He's using every inch of space without going 1 inch too far, if that makes sense as well. So he clearly knows this circuit very well.
Every inch counts, I would say. There's me getting a dig in the ribs. And then we go into the fast left before Rahal straight. One of the few bits of runoff that there is, and surprise, surprise, Newey using every single bit of it as we go blind into the corkscrew corner, 8 and 8A. So a bit of a drop through here, then a massive drop through the second part of that corner. As we said, the equivalent of over 10 stories of elevation change from that top of that corkscrew down to that left-hander that we just watched Newey go through. Then through the sort of medium speed right-hander, slightly cambered in, so you're making the most of that camber that the track has. And then into the final hairpin, again nice and tidy, hitting his braking marker, hitting his apex, and then hitting the power. And let's see what lap time he gets as he crosses the line here. Seeing as we're riding on board, that was a 23.1. For a car that is going to likely still have a decent amount of fuel on board, tyres that will be starting to head the wrong way in terms of their grip levels now at this point in the race. That's a pretty good lap time still to be in the low 23s. And that's extended his lead now to 3.9 seconds to D. Schulman. So please don't forget, if you're watching this, you can comment in the chat. We will do our best to say hello to everybody. Not seen anything for a little bit, but yeah, say hello. Let us know you're still watching. Let us know what you think of the racing so far. Who do you think is going to win as we move into this sort of next stage?
Yeah, it'd be good to hear people's predictions, not just the winner, any predictions that you think that is going to potentially happen. I think it's been quite good so far. We haven't done commentators cursing anyone, whereas at Bathurst, I think we pretty much jinxed every driver that we were talking about through there. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Drop on, we've got LinkedIn, all over there, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. We've got loads and loads of different channels that this is running through. So yeah, get in contact with us and we'll do our best to read out any comments that do come through. And like we say, this is for charity, so we really appreciate all the support that you guys are giving us so far.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the donations that we've had. Don't forget, you can donate at any time, and you can then have a message flash up on the screen. So we're trying to raise £1,000 for the British Red Cross tonight, but of course the global Red Cross as a whole, being that we have drivers racing from all around the world in the race tonight, we're almost halfway there for our target so far. So thanks very much to everyone that's donated thus far. We had a number of different donations from friends and family and others. So yeah, thanks guys that have given your support, and even just for watching and commenting, it really does help and mean a lot. So we're watching Michael Curran again at the moment then, West Midlands racing car in the white and red in aid of the Red Cross. Sporting newer liveries tonight, I think they are anyway. We had a bit of a last minute dash to try and get those all loaded in. There we go, we just had a donation from Martin, £20 I think that said. We have about 10 different screens here that we're watching in race control. Let me double check and make sure I get that right. Oh no, it wasn't Martin, it was Stud Muffin.
I thought, I was reading Stud Muffin. I was like, why are you saying Martin Stud Muffin?
I saw it on the
Martin's
iPad
my
screen.
dad, for anyone that doesn't know that. Yeah, my dad has been desperate to get in here to do the race director, the commentary. Really lucky, come from a really strong motorsport background myself. He was actually championship director back in 1990.
whatever.
Something, yeah. Yeah, so he was really pivotal in that time where Hamilton was getting signed, Gary Paffett, Fraser Sheed, all those greats that was in that championship at that point. So this is something that where I've dropped out of motorsport over the last couple of years. It's been really good for us to all kind of get back into it and start talking about motorsport. And I think motorsport's a very difficult one. I think when you're not in it, it's sometimes a little bit hard to talk about it, but this has given us all a little bit of a new lease of life for motorsport again. And yeah, I've started to have a little bit of a tinker around on the sim as well when I actually can get a chance to get in there after the guys. I usually try and get my go once Mackenzie's finished a race with the boys so that we can get on there. And what I do really have to say is, even if you've raced professionally before, you've raced on circuits, it is a complete different skill set that goes into this. And one thing that you mentioned earlier in qualifying, Mackenzie, was the screens. You've got a lot of people are running the setups with 3 screens, so one in the centre and one either side, so it kind of looks like you're in the cockpit of the car. Those screens are much, much clearer, whereas VR, you actually really are sort of fully immersed in that car, and actually makes some people feel quite car sick, which is actually something I suffered with when I first started to use VR. But it's the vision of it, it's a little bit more pixelated, so there's not one setup that suits someone, everyone. It's just what suits you and what you get used to. And these guys are spending a hell of a lot of money on their setup, but also an awful amount, a long amount of time. And I think one of the most expensive, non-expensive tips that you've got for the brake pedal is a squash ball, isn't it, Mackenzie?
Yeah, so all these expensive mods that you can come up with, we decided, or I saw somewhere somebody mentioned trying a squash ball underneath your brake pedal to try and simulate a bit more feeling in the pedal, because of course a real race car has a very, very heavy brake pedal with very little travel. It's not like your car brake that you can push it quite far. There's about 1 or 2 centimeters maximum of movement in the entire pedal between 0% and 100% brake. Now on a sim, to try and get a feeling similar to that is quite hard without an expensive set of pedals. So yeah, I wedged a squash ball behind it, and it seems to do quite a good job of just creating a bit more tension as you press harder on the brake. We now know who Stud Muffin was, by the way. It's my brother-in-law, Darren. Thank you very much for the donation there, Stud Muffin. There you go, you've got me saying Stud Muffin live on air. So since we've seen a couple donations, we'll come back to how to donate in just a moment. But actually, the guys have got the replay for the Steez incident earlier as well, so we can watch that back a little bit and see what we think of it. So yeah, we'll press play on that and see what happened to Niall Steez earlier in the race. We're seeing this for the first time as well, so we'll watch it here then. So this is from the race start as they drop down into turn 1. See Steve's on the outside then as he goes into turn 1. We're not quite sure what happened after that. We're about to find out. I think it was just they went through the exit of turn 2 that we saw him going off onto the grass, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There we go, yeah.
Oh, that was unlucky.
So
yeah,
again, just
really
one of those
unlucky.
scenes. Yeah, I think that might have. I'm not sure if it'd be Murray because Murray was behind him on the grid. I'm sure, so I don't know if it was.
Cars.
Was it? Yeah,
yeah.
So coming across the side from there. Again, you just can't see who's where in your mirrors, and it's all happening so fast. It's hard anyway, but it's even harder in VR sometimes because it is that little bit pixelated. You know where your car is, but you just can't see where other people are very easily. So very unfortunate for him, but he's still in the race and he's still chipping away at it. I've just spotted then Kloopson's now in 5th, D Price is in 7th. So Danny, of course, Danny Price we caught up with before the race. If you didn't see that, go back and watch it later. And we'll put it on our YouTube channel, InGear Motorsport YouTube channel. If that's not where you're watching now, you can head over there and subscribe. We'll put other videos up on that too. So watching Kloopson go through the famous corkscrew hairpin there. Quite a good run for him, Andy. He's been chipping away at it. He was somewhere around 10th on the grid, and he's now up into 5th, just through keeping his nose clean, chipping away at it, like I say, picking up places where he can. And he's got the Porsche d'Oliveira, who was quite fast early on, but seems to have just been dropping back. So perhaps, maybe the tyre pressures were a bit too high for him. They've got a bit hot, or he's pushed too hard. The tyres are experienced graining. That can all again be real causes that give drivers a lack of time and a lack of grip as the race progresses. You'll notice now as well that the sun is starting to set. We will be actually hitting nighttime on darkness by the time this race finishes. So it's actually on a time multiplier, so it's 4 times faster than normal time. So we can kind of simulate almost a 12-hour race in the space of 90 minutes. And as I say that, we are fast approaching half race distance then, just 25 seconds away. And the drivers will be halfway. And I've not seen a car in the pits yet, but it sadly doesn't tell us in the in-game graphics unless you force pit stops. And of course, we wanted to have an open strategy. So we don't know who is and who isn't yet to pit. And as I said, if someone really wanted to, they could just run on an engine fuel-saving map and try and make it to the end without stopping. Andy going a bit deep into the corkscrew there, and now that brings Oliveira right back onto his bumper. We can see headlights are now switched on. The game will actually penalise you if you don't turn your headlights on when it starts to get darker, so perhaps not quite there yet, but most of them turning them on anyway, it would seem.
Yeah, I think there was someone on Tuesday that actually forgot to put their lights on. I can't remember who it was for the life of me, but that is a really important element to it. And again, with these lights that come in as well, when it's an FIA registered race, there's a certain grade of light that has to go in the car to ensure that they're bright enough to get through, because some of the circuits that they race on...
Oh, Clemson just getting nudged behind there by Oliveira. He managed to hold on to it, but that's cost them both a lot of time.
Yeah, and Price is right all over the back of them now as a result of that.
And that's brought Price onto these 3.
Yeah.
Now, I was just thinking that was very much penalty worthy, albeit it probably was an accident for Oliveira, but he has just given the space straight back to Gibson. So race control will be watching him now and keeping an eye on what he's up to, but
I think you could quite clearly see there, as soon as the guys were recovering from that initially, you could see he was going to go but kind of backed out, but then did commit. And I think he's done the fair and right thing there, and he did back out, and he has let Clipson go back in front. But what that has done is give a great opportunity for Danny Price there to get all over the back of them. And again, I can't actually couldn't see it too well there just because of the pixelation on some of our screen. But both of them, or certainly Clemson's going to have dirty tyres now as a result of that, where he went offline and picked up those marbles, like you're saying, Mackenzie. So this is a good opportunity for Danny, and hopefully he's going to make the best of it.
Yes, and we now ride on board with Andy Clemson, looking over his rear wing. And as the camera cut out, he's just come into the pits. So there we go. There's a pit stop then. Clemson deciding now is the time. Tyres are dirty anyway. Let's get in the pits and do a pit stop and get some fuel. So the first one to blink then of the cars that we've seen. As I say, others may have snuck in there that we can't see. We can only see what you can see on the camera, but Clemson coming in for his stop. There will be a pit crew there on his screen that he can see, but for purposes of the game, not crashing and being stable, we won't see it on our commentary view. So then you see Curran in 7th place, then Neil Kidd behind him, heading into turn 1 now as we approach 42 minutes left of this race.
And this is where it's now going to start to get even more challenging for the drivers, because as more and more drivers start to pit, they've now got to contend with drivers coming out of the pit lane, which comes out going out turn 2 from that hairpin, which is quite a tricky corner anyway. So it's something else they've got to think about. It's going to be interesting to see who decides to do what. I know a lot of the guys at the end of race on Tuesday were saying, do we actually really need to be putting other tyres on it? But I think, personal opinion, I think you, obviously having raced there on Tuesday, you definitely think it's one stop, 2 sets of tyre strategy that is the best one going forward for this.
Yeah, and that just being because the tyres do wear out over time. And as they do that, you then lose time, and you might think, well, surely 40 seconds in the pits, and I could just save all of that time. But what you've got to realise is this race will actually be somewhere around 65 laps in total. Now, when the tyres go off, to start with, you might be half a second off, then a second off, and then before you know it, 2 seconds a lap off of where you need to be because they just don't have enough grip. So before you know it, you've lost 20 seconds in 10 laps time, and there might still be another 30 laps left. So quite important.
Sorry to butt in there, Mackenzie, but we have just heard from the race director that Oliveira is going to get a penalty, which I think is the right thing. He's definitely at least going to get a warning, so we're just waiting to hear whether it's
a
penalty.
Warning, not a penalty. Yeah. So race control can message the drivers and let them know if they're being watched or having a warning. We just saw Curran bounce off a sausage curb there, which threw him out to the gravel. We saw that in the track guide, how easy it can happen. We can see now we're at this halfway point, then mistakes starting to happen as drivers are getting a little bit tired, and it is very hard to focus for this long whilst driving flat out in a car. You know, these cars have got over around 550 horsepower, so lots of power underneath, slick tyres, loads of downforce, lots of grip. You're travelling at serious speeds, so it's a lot to try and deal with, and over time it gets quite hard. So I've just noticed Chrissy Palmer in 5th place, quite likely because he's had a pit stop.
Dan O'Brien's dropped down to 12th there as well, so wondering whether he's made the decision to go in and get a pit stop as well. So this is where we're going to see the leaderboard at the moment start to look slightly messy, certainly for a few laps, just while everyone kind of settles in, makes that pit stop. This is around the time where everyone is going to start to either, you've got to kind of stick or twist, haven't you? Either you've got to make that decision to go in, or you've got to stay out and long it out till the end. And just looking here, we've got 39 minutes left of this race, so we're about halfway through. We're nearly there in a couple of laps time. So D Stallman's actually in P1 at the moment there. So again, just trying to and wonder if Ben there in race control can do that for us, just to see if the original leader, not even going to try and pronounce the name. Neri, that's easier to say, isn't it? Just to see if he's actually in having a pit stop at the moment, because this is going to give Stallman quite a good sort of stretch of space to just go and set some fast, blistering laps to see what's happening.
And as suspected, we've lost nearly half the field through drivers just quitting after having an accident. Like I say, the core drivers all stuck around and are sticking with it despite challenges. As with two cars going 2 abreast through the corkscrew there, that looked like one of the Bentleys and one of the Shiba garage cars. That looked very close and exciting there between those two. It might have been Kidd and Stallman actually, rather than the Bentley. It's all jumping around a little bit on our commentary feed at the moment. We're doing our best to keep an eye on what's happening for you. So there's Stallman anyway, the lead car, obviously out of position on the track, just where he's had a pit stop and cars are slowing down and doing different things now. And it will all start to shape back together again in the order that it's actually in as we approach sort of the final sort of 10-15 minutes. Everyone will have made their stops and be heading towards the home straight as such. So this is that interesting phase then where we will see people pitting, we'll see different strategies playing out. The pit exit is extremely challenging here as well. It's an extremely tight left that loops back onto the track, and if you just go a tiny bit too fast into it, you actually end up on the gravel and potentially go into the side of a car going through turn 1. So again, it's another thing to be aware of and just very easily forgotten, given that drivers don't drive into the pits all that often. So we can see then that D Stallman in the lead, R Stallman is second, Neri is in third, just under 3 seconds behind them. Chrissy Palmer in fourth, 8.9 seconds off of them, so he'll be looking to make up that ground. Danny Price up into 5th, which is a fantastic effort from where he started. M. Curran in 6th, Clinton in 7th, N. Kidd in 8th, Heath 9th, Carey 10th. Dan O'Brien has dropped back to 11th, but we did see that he's pitted. And then Steve's 12th, Murray 13th.
Really impressive drive there by Roland, so the father out of the father-son duo there, because he actually started the race in 7th position, so he's done a really good job there of creeping his way back up, and the usual sort of pairing, or the Stallman double header is back to normality, and normality has been resumed there with both of them. Interesting to know if he's actually done a pit stop or not though, or these two going to just try and put as much space as they can between the other competitors now before they make that decision to take the pit stop.
Yeah, and then I think it's time just to remember that this is all about raising money for the Red Cross tonight. We're looking to hit a target of £1,000. We're halfway there at the moment. 498, I think, was the last total that I saw. If you would like to donate, it'd be greatly appreciated. It goes straight to a charity. The links are around in the various descriptions, but we'll also just put that up in a little advert for you as well. So we'll quickly play that. That'll show you the link as well, and then we'll get back to the action.
If we shrunk the world to a village of 100 people, it would look like this. 5 people contract malaria. 15 live in slums. 15 are illiterate. 15 do not have safe drinking water. And 30 suffer from malnutrition. Let's hope the rest are volunteers.
Perfect, and we're back there with Dee Stallman, who's out in the lead in P1. So you can actually see there just the difference in the light conditions, just where we took a short sort of 15-second break there. It's starting to get really, really darker out there now. So again, just looking here at this Bentley just gone through the screen there, hasn't actually got their lights on at the moment. So that's something that the game will pick up on.
Stallman spins, the race leader, dropping a wheel. He hasn't picked up damage, but that does potentially open him up to lose a place. I noticed the other cars around him weren't actually there, so perhaps they've just pitted, and Stallman had a golden opportunity to extend the lead, and he's just potentially cost himself a lot of time there. Dropping a wheel, as we saw, is just so easily done, and this is that perfect sort of recipe for it right now. The light's dropping, it's harder to spot your apexes, the tyres are potentially going off because the track temperature's dropping, and that just all culminated in him dropping a wheel and spinning round.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually saw Stallman make the same type of mistake at Bathurst as well, actually at the same time in the race, because we did the whole day to night race as well there at Bathurst. So maybe that's something that he struggles with. He doesn't seem to struggle with many things, so it does show that he's human and that he is making the mistakes there. But yeah, like you say, that's gutting for him, and he will know that he's really made a mistake there, because that was a golden opportunity for him to extend that gap that he had even further. But he's actually coming into the pits now, so he's going to come in, new tyres, maybe a top up of fuel, and he'll be back out there.
Be interesting just to see how long he's in the pits for, if we just hold on this for a moment. Or in fact, while he is, we have that actual link for you on our advert now. So that was the not quite the right one before, but we'll play that now. That'll show you the link of where you need to go to donate. So there you go then, just going to bit.ly/IGM Red Cross, you can make a donation. That will flash up on the screen, and you can leave a message that will come up on the screen as well. So please do be kind with that, it is for charity after all. But yes, all donations welcome. If you could share this out, seeing as there's some race time left, get some friends on to watch, that would be greatly appreciated. It all just helps the cause that little bit. So Dee Stallman then, I would say that he had a tiny bit of damage almost by how long that pit stop was. He's only just coming out now. Look, he's going to feed in behind Chrissy Palmer. Now, will he overcook it coming out of the pits? It's so easily done. Look how tight that was, right on the edge. So Stallman feeding in behind Chrissy. Chrissy has gained a place. Niri's still in the lead after that, but that has cost Stallman not one but two positions there from where he was. That was a tight feed back in as well. So Stallman's on fresh tyres. He's going to have to find his feet a little bit on the new tyres, but it won't take much more than a few corners, and then he's going to be trying to get back past Chrissy. Really interesting to see how these two have a battle now.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're going to go to a replay of that now, just to show how tight it was. But actually, no, we're just going to wait there for a minute, Ben, just because we can see here that Stallman's all over the back of Chrissy now, so he's got a point to prove after that little mistake that he made.
That's the two going deep into the corkscrew there. As the screen goes very slow for us, I want to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, the rain's not helping with everything.
We've got horrendous rain here in the commentary box. Yeah. I don't know if that's playing a thing. The replay is actually from the incident between Clinton and Oliveira earlier on, so we'll have a look at that once this comes. And Chrissy going wide, giving Stallman a bit of space there. Chrissy got the inside line there. Very, very forceful there actually from Stallman, but still firm but fair, I would say. Chrissy having no choice but to yield. Stallman getting the job done quite efficiently there, I would say. He knew that he'd come out on fresh tyres. He had to make that work and get past Chrissy early on if he wanted to stand a chance of then hunting down Niri and taking that race win. But work to do then for Dom Stallman then, with Niri being something like, 15 or so seconds. 14 and a half seconds ahead of that pair now. So, or 14 for Niri. So yeah, 14-second gap between the race leader and Dee Stallman. Again, the blue cars on your screen are cars that are being lapped by the leaders. So the actual position, the race position, just so you know what you're looking at there, is the number on the left, the white number in the red box. Stallman just went off on the gravel again. He's now going for a fast left with tyres that are covered in gravel. We did say it was all going to start happening once pit stops kicked in, and here you go. And it's actually the drivers at the front making the mistakes at the moment, and that's playing into the hands of people like Danny Price, who's now up into 4th place.
Really, really good race so far for Danny, and he's just been chipping away at it. He's kept himself out of any dramas along the way. Like we say, his lap times have improved immensely over the last couple of weeks, and it shows with his racecraft as well. Considering this was a race that he was concerned about because of the length of time, he's actually excelling here.
Yeah, doing really well. When I sat down with Neil and Danny on that call that we played earlier on in the build-up show, we saw that they were both saying how important it is just to finish and not make mistakes and just basically keep your nose clean. And there is an old saying in motorsport, to finish first you must finish. And I think a few drivers potentially needing to see that today. We're not seeing much of Mr. Heath on screen for a while, so it'll be interesting to know where he's got to after his problems earlier on in the race, where he's making progress to. John Kidd just messaging in saying fantastic production, it's all heating up. It certainly is heating up at the moment, and also urging people to donate. Yes, thank you very much. Tell your friends, tell your family, get them to donate.
Thanks.
Thanks,
John, we appreciate
it's not
that.
for me, it's for the Red Cross. Yeah, any donations would be so appreciated. So there's Heath then up into 8th. Now he dropped back into something like 13th, 14th earlier on, so definitely resurrecting his race a little bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see there's quite a bit of space now between Heath and Neil Kidd that's coming up behind him that you can just see coming out of the corner there. This can start to be a track where when you're on your own, it's quite a lonely track as well, because it is a busy track, but you need to keep that momentum. And again, we've only got sort of 29 minutes left to go of this race, so it's actually sometimes good to have cars around you because it keeps you sharp, it keeps you aware. So this is a skill in itself now, where it's kind of like the dark hours of the race, isn't it, where you're on your own, you're starting to get a bit hot, you're a bit tired, so he's going to be having to work really, really hard and pushing himself bit by bit, the same as what Neil Kidd's going to be doing as well, because they've got this big gap. They're kind of lapping around the same lap times as well, so someone either needs to make a mistake or someone's got to go and pull it out of the bag somewhere to get onto the back of each other.
And we have got that replay now from the Clemson Oliveira incident, so we'll have a little watch of that. And of course that resulted in Oliveira having a penalty, not a penalty, a warning, so that should be coming through on your screens in a second. But you'll see that he's coming into turn 1 under braking, and it's very hard not to hit the car in front, as we discussed in the build-up. And he'll be trying as hard as he can not to hit Andy, but just braked a little bit too late, and we kind of saw there he didn't really have many options on where to go. You'll see, as you've just watched that he is 100% on the brake on his little feed in the bottom right, and he did later give that place back. We've just heard that Danny Price has had an absolute disaster. His PC has just crashed, so he will be coming out of the race now, which is extremely unfortunate. We're just saying how good a race he was having. I'm absolutely gutted for Danny on that one. Just a note, race director Ben has donated for the second time, actually, to be fair to him. So race director finding time to donate while he's watching, that means you viewers can have a go at donating as well, if the race director can do it. But yeah, thank you once again to everyone that's donated. We're now over halfway to our target, as we're a little bit over halfway through our race. So hopefully we can keep these donations coming in, and for the cause of the British Red Cross, and of course the Red Cross as a whole. We also have a replay that I think we should be able to see soon of the Stallman spin again as well. Of course, that's the result of him going from, at the time in the lead, to 3rd place. So let's have a watch of that one as well, and then we'll get back to where the front pack are. And it was just unfortunate, dropped a wheel on the gravel, car running wide, and the track is actually slightly higher than the gravel, so that lip just causes the car to get hooked and spun round, which is what we saw there. Very lucky that he didn't get hit by another car, actually.
Quite a fast spin if you've got VR on as well. He probably wasn't feeling.
Well, he's in a free screen setup.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's actually got quite a sophisticated looking sim rig where he is actually sitting in what looks like a bucket seat and 3 screens. So yeah, very unfortunate for him. Will that cost him the win? We don't know yet. He's still in the contention. And actually, if we go back up to the front of the pack, we'll see there won't be a Danny Price there now, which has brought Curran back in the West Midland Racing squad car. As we saw with Heath earlier on, had a bit of an incident, but he's recovered up to 4th place. R. Stallman in 5th, Clemson in 6th. So Clemson's dropped back a slot. And I think that'll just be a case of the pit stops working themselves out now. Dan O'Brien back down into 10th, so I think he's had a couple of incidents, and R. Stallman looking like he's coming up on him at the moment to lap through. So some of the guys lapping a few members of the pack now as well. Another thing to really be aware of, Charlotte, isn't it? When you have to deal with cars that are faster than you, sometimes it can be different categories of car or just being lapped.
Yeah.
What sort of challenge does that present for these guys?
Yeah, so I mean, these guys are all in one category here, so just in GT3s. But yeah, absolutely. In the real world as such, you can have GT3s and GT4s in one race, and actually, you can sometimes find that if you haven't got a quick enough driver in a GT3, the GT4 can be setting faster lap times, but it's that whole down the straight, there's more speed, or through certain corners, and that becomes really frustrating for drivers and really, really challenging. So this is where everyone just has to start using their head, keep a clear head as well, and know who you're racing. Like we say, there's usually 2 or 3 races going on between a race, and front, middle pack and back, so it's just about making good decisions there, because we wouldn't want anyone at the back of the race to be affecting a good battle that's happening at the front, and vice versa with that, because everyone's racing between themselves.
Yeah, and you have these different races going on with different drivers, so yes, it's important now, and that's going to be the next thing as we approach the final stages of this race. Team Kirk back in chat then, Andreas, go Kirk, go, Liam Sharman, and nobody likes Dave. Dave, we like you because you're commenting in our chat.
Absolutely.
And Afios Mario back again. So the Kirk squad's coming out in full force as Kirk remakes a few places. As I say, resurrecting his race a little bit from earlier on. Paulina requesting we have a little chat with Danny now that he's finished out the race, perhaps. Certainly we could probably get him in for an interview if he's available. I'll put that one out to the race director because he's not doing very much at the moment. If we can get Danny in for a little catch up in Discord, welcome to join us for a bit. We'll find out what he thought. And we see, I think that's D Stallman lapping R Stallman. Yes, it may well be, yeah. Our screen kind of went a bit funny there again, just with the weather playing up. So we still have Neri in the lead. Stallman in second, 10 seconds behind. So Neri looking quite comfortable now, and I think the other guys will be hoping that he makes some kind of error, but he's not shown any so far.
He's been absolutely on the money the whole way through.
So we can't quite get a hold of Danny at the moment, but
we'll try to
we'll see if we can have a chat at some
absolutely.
point. We're going to focus on the closing stages of this race. 20 minutes to go. A lot can still happen. We saw a lot happen in the first 20 minutes. So plenty to happen still yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you can quite clearly see here is something that the game shows really, really well, is that you can see how dark that racing line's now getting. You can see the rubber that's being put out there. And you touched upon it in the sort of pre-show or pre-race lineup, but actually Pirelli have worked really, really closely with this game to simulate everything being absolutely spot on the tyre behaviours.
Yeah, and some of the teams getting involved as well. So Bentley gave a massive data dump, and as Danny said in our interview at the start, to Kunos, the people that make this game, so they could actually accurately represent the car, and other teams doing the same. I think that was very much helped by the COVID situation, where there was more sim racing happening than ever, and teams wanting to make sure they were represented correctly in games. So this game is, arguably not just a game; it is a simulator. It's a simulation game where people can join in and actually experience very close to the types of things you have to think about in a real race car. Obviously with the massive added benefit of a reset button. If you do go flying into a wall, it doesn't hurt, and you can live to fight again another day and instantly repair the car. Obviously, yes, it is. You'll be out of the race in this case, but yeah, certainly in practice you can just keep pushing and pushing until you hit a wall and then bring it back a notch. So in some ways it's different, other ways it's very, very well represented. So still watching on your screen then, car 120, Neri Kalong Klugu. I'd love to know where that name's
Yeah,
from.
I would.
Can we see his nationality somewhere, Race Director? I'm sure you can sometimes get that to pop up on our screens. Turkish, there you go. So we've got a Turkish driver in the mix. Should have picked up that. So, and apologies if you actually speak the language. I'm probably absolutely butchering his name.
Don't worry, it's better than my attempt at it anyway. So
Most of the people in here are regulars that race with us every week, so we have a bit more information about them, and know they're friends of Charlotte and I. But yeah, this is open to the public as well. So anyone watching that owns a copy of Assetto Corsa Competizione can come and join our race server and our race nights. So that's what Niri's done tonight, and done very successfully so far, as he comes up to lap the 20 car of A. Klimpson.
yeah, and this is where Klimpson, he'll know who's behind him, he'll know the situation that it is, and hopefully he'll just kind of move out of the way, but not to detriment of his own race there as well. And actually, that was probably the first time that we've seen Niri actually run maybe a little bit, not too wide, but I'd start to say along the dangerous side of being too wide here, because we have seen how easy it is to just push it that inch too far around here, drop a wheel off and spin in the same way that some of the other drivers have done. So that's something that he's now going to have to watch over the next 19 minutes or so to get himself to that checkered flag. But you can see the pace difference between the two. They're just under that braking zone. It's all over the back of him now. And actually, Klimpson's driving quite defensively.
He gets out of the way in the end. Yeah,
yeah, fingers crossed he will. He's Niri's furiously flashing his lights there, and Klimpson perfectly just moves out of the way there. So good use of the lights there, and it is, it's either done by intimidation or just literally get out of my way. I'm faster than you, and I'm coming through.
Niri is faster than you. Okay, right. Well, Danny Price is available for a chat now, so he's going to get dropped into our channel, and I'll have to amend my speaker so he can hear me. 1 second. Danny, hello and welcome to the commentary box. How obviously really unfortunate what happened just now. Tell us quickly what happened, and then perhaps go through the race a little bit.
Well, I went to press on the brake pedal, and I completely froze. So in VR, as you'll know, that's quite interesting.
It's a bit of a shock, isn't it, when your screen just goes blank and you're kind of in VR?
It kind of like it freezes the last image, so you're expecting the car to carry on, and it just kind of stops. So yes, it's a bit weird.
But looked like you're making good progress, and actually we had our chat the other day about sort of keeping your nose clean and just chipping away at it. Bar a couple little sort of misdemeanors here and there, you kind of kept it quite clean. You were up into 5th at the point that it happened. Tell us how the race was going from your point of view.
It was going good. A couple of bits I think like picked up on a couple of mistakes was the bit where the kind of tyres fall off a little bit, but then again they were starting to pick up yet again, so I was getting back on the pace a little bit. Felt pretty good, quite comfortable doing it, so yeah, bit of a shame, but
And how was it with tyres actually, just as a whole? Like, because again we had this whole chat about you could do the whole race on one set of tyres if you really wanted. What's your thoughts on that now, just with a bit more running time?
I think I would have carried on doing that. I wouldn't have changed. Again, it's an extra 30 seconds in the pit to do that, and you're not going to gain that back, I don't think.
Okay, very interesting to see. We're just watching now at the moment. Heath is now caught himself back up onto the back of Klimpson, so he's still coming back after quite a bad start. Danny, just quickly before we send you back, how was the? What do you? Who do you put your money on for the race? What are your thoughts?
I reckon Stallman first. I think.
Have you seen Niri though?
He is pretty quick, and supposedly those two are training quite well together, pretty close together. So.
Oh, they know each other.
No, as in like on the track doing training as such.
Yeah. So we just saw Klimpson go in the inside there, holding Heath off, but not for long, I imagine. Danny, I think we'll catch up with you a little bit again later on. Thank you for dropping in, and bad luck there on that one.
That's a shame. All right, guys, in a bit.
Yeah, see you later. So you then watch now on your screens the lead car of the Nissan of A. Klimpson, and he is absolutely racing with Kay Heath. They're fighting for 6th place at the moment. And as we say, it's this stage now. There's only 15 minutes left of the race. It's all to play for, and it's no kind of no holes barred, everything on the table, everything's going to be put out on the line now at this point. Heath trying to come back from a bad start. That'd be fantastic for him if he can get another couple of places at this stage in the race.
He's looking fast as well. You can see, he's scrubbing off a little bit of pace where he's trying to make the move, but he's all over the back of them. And what's going to be an interesting element now to this little fight that's going on is Stallman's actually coming up behind them and gaining on them quite rapidly. So this is where Andy's going to have the challenge of letting Stallman through without letting Heath through. So you can see they're just going down through the corkscrew that the blue flags are out.
Yeah.
As well, so this is hard. This is a tricky situation to manage, and kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier on about how do you deal with a situation like that. And sometimes it is luck as much as skill.
Yeah, it can really change a race. So the blue flag means there's a faster car approaching. Now it's on the overtaking car. So in this case, Stallman to pass fairly, but it's still easier said than done. So these guys need to let him pass. I think he's just on the outside of Heath there. Yes, Heath letting him through. I think. Yes, that looked like it was getting very tight for a second. And then Clemson will now have to do the same. And it's never it's not an easy place to be as the car overtaking or the car being overtaken at this point, because you've still got your own race going on if you're Andy Clemson right now. You want to worry about holding on to your nice 6th place you've earned. But is he going to let Stallman through? Our screen is getting a little bit choppy again this end, but he's through. Yes, he's made it through.
But you can
so
see
the
that
order stays the same.
all over the back of him now.
Yeah. So like Charlotte says, that's just given Heath the opportunity to get right back onto Clemson. Because of course, by letting a car through, you're running off the line a little bit, you're going a little bit slower, and that brings the other opposition around you back into contention. And of course, Stallman, I should note, it was about a 10-second gap. He's brought that down to 7.8 to the car ahead. In fact, is it even closer? That's just the way we're looking at it. Yes, it's about a 7-second gap between Neri and Stallman at the moment. So Stallman actually working hard to bring that gap down. We could still yet see the German make it to 1st place in this race. And the battle rages on between Heath and Clemson then. Absolutely love that Bentley, especially when the lights come on.
Yeah.
The Nissan as well, probably 2 of my favourite cars right there. Obviously I'm a Mercedes man, but yeah, these 2 and the Aston Martin are probably a couple of my other favourites that we have.
Yeah, you can see that Andy's pushing really, really hard as he's exiting out of these corners. He's using every little bit of space that he can. And he's not driving too defensively at the moment because he knows that there's just enough sort of amount of distance between him and Heath behind him. So he doesn't want to scrub off that speed on the exit going into the, going out of the corner, sorry.
Heath having a look on the outside then of turn 4. Can he make it stick? It's a very brave move going around the outside. We saw him do it earlier. I think there's a tiny little bit of touch there. These 2 will be chatting on the Discord, so he would have said to Andy he's on his outside, but Andy's still having none of it. Valiant defence here from Clemson. And of course, at this stage in the race, you are fighting for position. There's no just letting somebody through because it will save you time. This is it. As we drop downhill for turns 8, AA through the corkscrew. 18 metres of elevation change, an absolutely mental change of elevation, or 10.5 stories then by the time we get to this point here, that left-hander. Penultimate corner is a medium speed right. And we drop then into the final hairpin in just a moment's time. Crossing the line once again. 12 minutes left on the clock. These 2 having quite a cool
This will
fight
feel
right
like
now.
the longest 12 minutes as well. This is where it starts to get really, really hard. And like I say, this isn't just because it's not in the real life. It doesn't mean that this isn't hard work. The steering wheels have got an awful lot of amount of feedback behind them. They're putting so much force through that set brake pedals. Like you say, everyone's getting really inventive with their setups to make sure that they're strong enough. You can be having 70 kilos worth of force hitting that brake pedal, especially going down into turn 2 into that double apex hairpin. So guys are working really hard. They're probably going to be, if I'm being brutal, as hot, sweaty messes after this. But it's a great way. It's a great way of really building and getting better at your driving skills.
Yeah, and there's only one way to get better at racing, and that is actually racing. Another donation just come in from Frank, aka Dad. That'll be Charlotte's dad. Frank, if you've seen the film Mother of the Bride, that will make sense where that comes from. Good race for a good cause of £50. Thank you very much. amazing that we're getting these donations in. Like I say, they're all going straight to the Red Cross, so thank you so much to everyone that is donating. I think we'll get that link up for you again in a few minutes, just in case you're waiting to do it. But for now, we want to see the battle that's happening with these two, Clemson versus Heath. It still rages on. Clemson's still defending Heath at the moment. It's getting dark. It's hard to see your apexes. It's hard to see your braking markers. And there's a car in front of you. It's not an easy course for either of these two at the moment. Still Neri in the lead. Still Stallman behind him. Brought the gap down a little bit further now, it would seem. In fact, I think Stallman's actually pulled in Neri quite a bit.
Stallman's actually been setting some blistering laps. You can see, you know, that could have really affected him sitting behind Andy and Heath there, but he you know, he dealt with it really well. He didn't get himself into any trouble, and to close that gap even further to P1, that's a real good, you know, that's showing really good racing skill behind it.
I mean, this is exciting stuff. 10 minutes to go, a 1.4 second gap between first and second place. Pit stops have happened now. The setup you've got is the setup you've got. The pressures you've got is the pressures you've got. Let's see what these two can do. I think they're going to do some battle on the last few laps.
It'll be good to see that, let it get down to the wire. And we've got Chrissy Palmer there in third as well. He's kept his nose pretty clean throughout all of this. His pace has been really good as well.
Yeah, Chrissy Palmer fighting a good fight. I think it has very much been a day of the Porsche here at Laguna Seca. We have had a nice mix of manufacturers, but the fastest car definitely has been the Porsche. Heath right on the bumper of Clemson there. Let's get back onto that before that changes. Still, I think he looked closer than ever coming out of the hairpin, but something happened. He dropped back a little bit again. Heath desperately trying to find a way past. Curran is then in front of these guys after that, so Heath will be looking to try and sort of make that gap up. But yeah, very, very interesting stuff so far. So we had a comment from Phil Lima in the chat. He must have had a go on Heath's setup recently, said he's got the bug, would love to get involved. Of course, a full setup's never an easy thing just to get. They're quite pricey things to do, but great that you had a go on Heath's. And yeah, let us know if you do start racing properly. Everyone is welcome at InGear Motorsport to come and join. We have a bit of a criteria for certain races like this, but on the whole, very easy to get involved, and we run lots of regular stream nights where anyone's welcome.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think one of the sort of real fun bits, just interesting there, so just going to interrupt myself there. Clemson was definitely 4 wheels over on track limits there, going through that last corner. So it'd be interesting to see if that's picked up on the game at all.
Again, looking very close. They're going to lock corner. Andy defending into the hairpin. Heath will be looking for the cutback, but I think Andy done a good job of slowing it down enough mid-corner that Heath couldn't cut back on him. That'll be why they keep looking slightly different by the time they end up in turn 1, but this time Heath looking closer than ever. But where you're sort of dropping down here and slightly kinking to the left during the braking zone for turn 1, it doesn't make it very easy to pass. So Heath will be waiting for an opportunity. And at this stage in the game, as much as you want to get past, you also want to make sure you finish. Especially after Heath's start, fantastic effort to get back to 7th, but he will be desperately trying to get up one more into 6th. Ahead of him, you've got R. Stallman, then you've got Heath's teammate M. Curran, Chrissy Palmer, and then as we saw, Neri's leading with B. Stallman in 2nd place at the moment. So still battles carrying on as we head into the final 7 minutes of this live stream charity race.
Yeah,
and it is a charity race after all, so one last little plug of the donations before we head into the final few laps. Remember, you can donate at any time, and here is a quick ad with the link. So there you go, any donations welcome. We're over halfway to our target, still a little bit of a way to go. We'll keep the donations up for a little while after this race, but yeah, anything you can add would be greatly appreciated and called for a good cause. So we watch these two round the last corner again, cross the start-finish line again. Now it's 5 minutes left to go. What can Clemson do? What can Heath do? Can he make a move work? Neil Kidd made his way up into 9th place then, again after sort of being outside the top 10, nearer the 15th mark on the grid. Quite a good effort for him, bringing the Sheila Garage car up to that top 10 position.
Yeah, where's Dan O'Brien? Just be good to check in with him really quickly just to see how he's getting on.
Yeah, he's still running. I think race pace probably not quite where he wanted it to be in the pits. I don't know if he's just come in the pits. He's 4 laps down at the moment, so I wonder whether that's him fully in the pits right now. D. Murray also behind him. I know, just yeah, I think Dan might have parked that for the night.
Really good effort with him though, just to even get in the race considering what the situation that he was in. I think he's had hours and hours and hours on the phone to the guys that built his computer for him to make sure that tonight happens. So great effort there. I think we should just check in with the front 2 Porsches as well, because it seems like, you know, we've got the last 5 minutes now. They're going to be pushing super hard to not be overtaken and to also overtake at the same time.
Actually, we've missed what would have been a pretty interesting overtake of D. Stallman getting past Neri. We'll see if we can get... Yeah, so Stallman's in the lead now then. Definitely made his way past Neri at some point. We'll see if we can get a replay of that. Yeah, guys working on that in the back end, so we'll find out what happened there in just a moment's time.
Dom certainly found, not that he never had the pace, but he certainly found something in the latter stages of this race, hasn't he? He was looking a little bit, not his normal self at one point, but yeah, he's absolutely flying now. And I think he's going to pull out the gap even further more, because you see he's overtaken and he's driving off.
Yeah, about a second ahead at the moment as it stands. That's enough for the car in second of Neri to still have some kind of slipstream. And of course, it's always nice to have something in front of you when it comes to driving at night and know where to brake.
Yeah.
Of course, though, if the car in front brakes and goes off, then you may well do the same if you're just relying on them. So a bit of both there on pros and cons. 0.8 seconds as they round off the lap with the final turn. 0.7. I think that's going to be still an interesting last couple laps. We definitely want to stick with these two and just see what happens. We'll try and get that replay of the overtaking move when it happens just a few laps ago. So much going on, we can't even see it. We're not going to see what happens with Heath and Clemson at the same time, but we'll do our best to keep on top of all of it. It's fantastic that while we have lost a number of drivers in this, we still have plenty of them competing and racing and battling at this stage of the race. So still, guys, we've not had anything in the chat for a little while, but please, give us a message, say hello, let us know you're still there. Let us know who you think your money's on for the win. See who you can call it, because you've got 2 cars here that are about to have an almighty fight potentially.
Danny Price actually called it.
He did actually, didn't he? Yeah, Danny said D. Stallman.
For the win, so.
Stallman was about 3 or 4 seconds behind at the time.
Yeah, so.
And he's now a second or 2 in the lead. Of course, we saw him drop his wheel earlier and spin round and cost himself a lot of time. So just goes to show, he still pulled it back, but he probably would have been even more clear after that. Interesting, given how dominant Neri was in the middle phase of the race. Makes you wonder whether Dom was actually sort of planning on this being the phase where his car's, fully set up, fresher tyres. Maybe he did put fresh tyres on. It's all quite tricky to tell.
So we're just hearing, and like we say, the guys in the background are working on it. So we might not be able to play it during the race, but.
Just had another donation from Stefani Cowie. Thank you very much for that £10 donation there. Again, thank you so much to everyone that's donated, and thank you very much for
really
that one as well.
It.
Yeah.
So sorry, just getting back to that, Neri actually made a mistake. The first mistake he's made in this race the whole time. And I said a few laps previous to that when we were watching him that he was starting to run dangerously wide, and that's probably just what happened. He just went a little bit too wide there, but it was enough of a advantage that Stallman took full advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's it. Small mistakes will cost you sometimes 1 or 2 places, and when you're fighting for the lead, that is, of course, an absolute disaster. So Neri will be gutted with himself over that after such a strong mid-race, and it's just that phase where it gets dark. It's so difficult. Right, just before these two start to begin their final lap or 2, we have got a replay of that for you. So we'll play that now. That will be appearing on your screens any second, and then we'll tune in for the final lap after.
Yeah, we'll go straight back to them for the final laps, I think, just so we can see who's going to cross the checker flag.
So on board with Dominic Stallman then. As we saw, the gap was quite close between him and Neri, but he'll just see Neri runs off onto the gravel. So easily done around there as well. So that was Dom Stallman taking the lead from Neri, Porsche on Porsche, as we approach the final lap or two of this race. It's on the time, it's 90 minutes, 56 seconds left on the clock. Oh, it's been an exciting one. We're nearly there. Still got our riggers in there. Chrissy's been very much in no man's land a little bit for a while now in third, but this is where the fight is. First and second, D. Stallman on Neri, guy on the Lugi. The Turkish driver in second place. Can he do anything? He's still within a second. Can he make something work on the final lap? Just had another donation in from George while this is happening as well. Thank you very much. Now just under £600 on our £1,000 target. I'm not sure if it will say that this is the last lap or if it will give the guys one more lap. We'll see what happens. This is potentially the last time Dom Stallman's going to round the corners. 6 attempts in it between him and Neri. What is it going to be? 2 corners. Now the last corner as they round off into the hairpin. Neri pushing so hard. He's brought that gap down even further. Is that the flag or is it last lap? Yeah, that is the flag. Dom Stallman wins again. Fantastic effort from him after having that incident. D. Stallman takes the win. Neri second, and then we should see Chrissy Palmer for InGear Motorsport crossing the line in third. Valiant effort there with the Mercedes AMG.
Absolutely fantastic there.
So Chrissy will be crossing the line in a moment, just rounding into the final corner, and then he will also be across the line in third place. But as I said, very much a Porsche day with first and second today. Nice to see another manufacturer on the podium though. So there was Heath. Keith and Clipson neck and neck across the line. I don't actually know who got that. That was incredibly tight. That was a photo finish there for the number 38 car of Heath. Great effort, a great battle there. That looked like it was actually Cowie that he was racing with in the end. So he must have dropped back, and Climpson did hang on to 6th place. Here comes Kidd. We've not seen any major errors from Kidd here. Maybe we missed some, but it all looks pretty good and nice and clean actually. So well done to him. Again, gaining in pace every race we do, and it's not easy. He particularly found it hard, and sort of the longer races like this. VR, like you said, it's very hot as well. You know, you can even have sweat coming in your eyes and all sorts of stuff when you start getting to later stages of this. Perfect. So there are all the drivers across the line, everybody. Well, that was a fantastic race. Charlotte, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely fantastic race. A lot of action. You know, you kind of come into this thinking, God, 90 minutes, what's it going to have in store for us? But yeah, the whole way through the grid there was something different going on, and it wasn't just a straight up kind of like the F1 races at the moment where it's, you know who qualifies first and they go and win. It was a really good mix of battles, great mix of manufacturers in there as well, different driving levels, and everyone played it clean, and most people got through. Yeah, we had a few people that dropped out, but no, absolutely brilliant effort by everyone, and yeah, great evening.
Yeah, that was a lot of action, a lot going on. We'll have a quick look at the final timetable, but essentially we have an interview coming up in a moment. We'll see who we can get our hands on for a bit of a chat. It'd be nice to talk to Chrissy if he's available, coming in third place. We don't have the Stallmans in our Discord to talk to, sadly, but yep, so that was Dom Stallman that took the race win. So it was a German driver that won the race at our American track tonight. Neri in second from Turkey, and then Chrissy Palmer. Actually, 3 different nationalities on the podium. Yeah. Fantastic as well. So we've got interviews coming up. We'll just give the drivers a chance to kind of find themselves a little bit. So they've just done 90 minutes of racing. Think about when you've done a long journey in a car. You're never normally, unless you're going a bit fast, going over 70 miles an hour for that. And it's extremely tiring, isn't it? Well, if you're driving a car flat out, trying to pick braking markers, that are the size of a postage stamp almost in times, in the darkness, and not hit the gravel for 90 minutes, that's pretty damn tiring. So these guys will just allow them a minute, and then we'll think about trying to bring Chrissy up or whoever else will chat to us. Neil's usually quite happy to have a little chit chat, but yeah, if race director could let Chrissy know, we're going to have a chat in just a minute time. And just as we're on the sort of closing parts of this stream tonight, we'll be finishing very shortly. One last little go at saying please donate if you can.
Yeah, I think
hello in chat as well. Still, a couple of guys have actually said. Danny's just said, "Are we doing round 2 after this?" He's ready to go again after this.
I bet he is.
So unlucky for Danny.
Yeah, no, it's gutting. We're going to keep the donation page up for a couple of days or so, just to give everyone an opportunity. But yeah, we really appreciate it. It's for such a good cause as well. We just felt it was really important to do our bit after what's happened over the last few months, because we've actually been very, very lucky in a bad time for a lot of people. So we just wanted to do something to give back.
So yeah, we'll have a chat with Chrissy in just a moment's time.
Just give them a moment
go through from that. Yeah,
have a quick
we'll have a little
drink
bit of a sort
or something.
run back through that race as well. Have a quick little chit chat about it. Okay. So Charlotte, what was let's do driver of the day, shall we? And in chat, tell us who you thought driver of the day was if you're still with us. We'll be finishing in about 5 minutes' time. So yeah, stick around for an interview if you can. Let us know who you thought was driver of the day.
I mean, a really, really tricky one for me. I think if there had been a slightly different outcome, I probably would have said Danny Price. But I think it's got to go to Stallman, hasn't it? I think I'd love to know what his strategy for that race was, because it just worked out perfectly throughout then. He made a little mistake in between, but I think every driver did. So great effort by him. So I think it would have to be Stallman for me. What about you?
I want to go Stallman, but he did obviously make that mistake.
Yeah.
He got a bit lucky with it. I think Danny Price, potentially driver of the day.
Yeah.
We didn't see where he was going to get to after that incident happened.
We have to do round 2, aren't we?
George in chat voting Danny Price as well. So over on YouTube, that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think everyone done a good job that finished. Just finishing a 90-minute race at that track or any track is hard work.
Yeah.
So well done to everyone that finished. First of all. I mean, from where we started, D. Stallman didn't look like he had the pace to win that race. But obviously in later stages of the race, he just had so much pace that he just came back and drove away from Neri.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was potentially strategy playing in there.
Yeah, I do think that had a lot to do with it. I think he knew what he was doing with his tyres. I wonder whether that was something that he tested out last night, because they were on for quite a long time last night when we had a look on Discord.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like, maybe we'll be able to find out. Maybe we'll be able to get him in the chat one day and ask him. But I think it was very, very well played out. I think all the guys actually made really good pit stop decisions. And I think as well, there was a lot of blue flags out there, which isn't an easy thing by any stretch of the imagination to kind of negotiate, especially when you're getting sort of into the last closing stages of the race as well. So I think, yeah, they all did a great job. And yeah, for them to finish, like you say, a 90-minute race, there will be a
blue flags.
Cracking open a beer now.
Yeah, they will. A much enjoyed beer on this Saturday evening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's the time zone difference like in Turkey? It'll be even later, probably. But, I'm not sure.
Who knows? I don't know.
Kurt got a vote from nobody likes Dave, except we like Dave. John Kidd, Price also driver of the day, so a couple for Danny there, including myself. So yeah, I think that was a fantastic bit of racing. Let's get Chrissy up here for a quick chat though. Third place, he's the first person we can kind of talk to on our list of drivers in the Discord. So I don't know if race director's going to drop him up. Yes, he is. I will unmute myself on Discord viewers, and then he'll be able to hear me. That always helps. Chrissy, hello, welcome to Commentary Box. Fantastic effort on a podium. How was that for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Chrissy. We was watching you the whole way through, and you looked really sort of steady on it the whole way.
Or consistent as well.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you had an incident that we just missed, but it looked like you had a pretty clean race. Is that the case, or was there a couple sort of mishaps? Yeah, that's cool. I mean, Stallman actually had a complete spin at one point and managed to still get back through, so he got lucky with that. Which is absolutely rapid, isn't it, at that stage of the race? At night as well. Damn. Just on the strategy front, we can't really see who's doing what other than they've gone in the pits and out the pits again. Now that it's all over, what did you opt for in that in terms of tyre change, not tyre change, and so on? And did you find they just went off then at that point?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, unlucky you didn't get the win, but obviously good job on the podium as well. And I think it was very much a Porsche day, first and second there. Those two were flying at the end. But well, yeah. I'm giving the excuse for you. You're in an InGear Motorsport car there.
He's got the racing drive, but book of excuses out.
I'm doing it for you, mate. All right. Well, look, we'll let you go and sort of have a bit of a break and whatever, and I'll catch up with you later, and we'll try and have a chat with Heath as well. So, cheers, mate, and I'll speak to you soon. Yeah, good job. We'll speak to you soon. Right, let's get Heath up here quickly, ladies and gents. We've got a few Heath fans watching still. If you have a question you want me to ask Heath, quickly put it in chat. I don't know who's still with us, being the end of the race. Put it in the chat. I'll ask him. We can maybe put him on the spot a little bit, and then we'll see. Right, apparently we couldn't all hear Heath then. Not sure what that is. Maybe Ben needs to do something there. But we'll see if we can hear... Sorry, we couldn't hear Chrissy, but we'll see if we can hear Heath. So let's bring him up. Mr. Heathy Keefy, Jeff Badgers, how's it going? Good evening, guys. How you doing? You've got quite the fan club on all the different chat streams.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Liam Sharman, Nobody Likes Dave, Phil Lima, Afios Mario. I think there might have been another one as well, Andreas C. We can't seem to hear him, apparently. I wonder what's going on there. Ben, can you hear us? Race director Ben.
Yeah, no, we can hear you, Heath. We're just trying to get it out there on the YouTube. My mum's texting me going, we can't hear you.
I don't know if race director Ben, are you here? Otherwise, I think we're going to have to wrap up.
Yeah, so we've got some issues with Discord at the moment.
Well, we did well throughout the race, didn't we? We had no technical difficulties before, so we'll take that. Yeah. Okay, right. Well, Heath, I'll tell you what, we'll have I'm sure we'll get this out on YouTube at some point anyway. I just want to see if anyone's asked you a question since they can hear us. No, they haven't. We'll go to outro. So, everybody, we're going to wrap up and close the stream off. We can hear us, so at least you can hear Charlotte and I. I just want to say at this point, thank you very much for everyone that's taken the time to tune in tonight and watch, and obviously all the donations have been fantastic. We're going to keep that link going that you can see in the descriptions, various channels, so please click that and donate if you can. We're not going to close it off just yet, but fantastic 90 minutes of racing. Hope you all enjoyed that. Again, one last thank you for me. Charlotte, any closing words from yourself?
Yeah, no, I just want to say from my point, obviously I just come here and do the commentary, but you guys at InGear Motorsport and the InGear Media have done an amazing job over the last sort of 3 months or so. I'm really proud of you for doing this, and we've, raised some money for a great cause, and we've had a lot of fun along the way. So yeah, it's not the end, it's just the start of a new championship in a couple of weeks. So yeah, we've got next Tuesday off. And then the following Tuesday?
Yeah, I think that falls like 4th of August. We've got our GT4 mini series. So we'll be back with more live racing soon, not necessarily for charity, but please do keep an eye out for that. Really hope you enjoyed it. Thanks one last time, and we will see you soon. There we go, green lights, and we're off once again.
I'm as calm as Leo.